Chapter 611, Landscape as Before. Luck Inspection Gu. Fong Yuan's heart moved, quickly sending his primeval essence into the Gu. The next moment, his vision changed. Luck Inspection Gu, a rank 5 luck path investigative Gu, it could allow him to see luck despite its formlessness. Looking at Tai Bai Yunsheng's luck now, his previous fiery red luck that was originally burning with a glowing red glow had shrunken by a bit. Earlier, Giant Sun Immortal Venerables Will was helping him, thus his luck was being expended. Now that he helped once more, Tai Bai Yunsheng has only a third of his initial luck left. Fong Yuan evaluated. Looking at his own luck, it was still the black coffin luck, as rich and dense as ink, and even larger than before. Fong Yuan's heart jumped, but quickly snickered to himself, looking at the people in the blessed land. The people who were watching Tai Bai Yunsheng ascend to a mortal realm had changes to their luck as well. The overwhelming majority of the Gu masters had unwittingly developed a small layer of black coffin luck. Except for He Lulan, he still had his unchanged profuse azure luck. Looking around, Fong Yuan felt his eyes hurting. He quickly stopped using the luck inspection Gu. When a Gu master ascends, there would be endless heaven and earth chi. Using Gu worms in such an environment would cause a backlash. If he forcefully continued to use them, both he and his Gu worms would suffer injuries, or even face death. As his vision returned to normal, Fong Yuan looked at Tai Bai Yunsheng again. He was swimming in the thunderstorm, flying through the crevices of the clouds, showing off his master-level flying attainment. His body had no more defensive Gu, he was relying on his movement to evade the chaotic lightning balls. It was like walking on a tightrope. He was in great danger. In order to avoid the earthly calamity of restraining smoke, he charged into the thunder clouds. This was a wise decision when weighing the two difficulties, but it was also a helpless choice. If not for the fact that I have green grape immortal essence, and can dilute it to form endless primeval essence, such an insane flying speed would have drained my aperture dry long ago. Tai Bai Yunsheng was breathing roughly, his hair was in a mess and his body was feeling weak. The situation was getting more dangerous. Swoosh! Suddenly, a chaotic lightning ball changed directions and charged towards him. Tai Bai Yunsheng wanted to evade it, but it was too late. He could only stare indignantly with a furious gaze. In the moment of crisis, a white light pillar shot over, directly hitting this chaotic lightning ball. The lightning ball quickly melted from the ray of light, turning into pure heaven chi. Divert Disaster Gu. 88 Truyang Buildings help came once again, saving Tai Bai Yunsheng. So close, even though I became a Gu immortal, I do not have any defenses on me. If I was hit by the chaotic lightning ball, I'd be heavily injured. The consequences are unthinkable. Ads by Pub Future. Tai Bai Yunsheng swallowed his saliva, feeling some lingering fear. After becoming a Gu immortal, the foundation of his life had been elevated. If he was still immortal, a chaotic lightning ball could easily kill him. Gu immortals, however, were tougher. Even without any defensive Gu, they could endure over a dozen lightning balls without any problems. But the thing was, these lightning balls had special effects. After being hit, they would cause Tai Bai Yunsheng's thoughts to be chaotic. Once his mind is in chaos, he would not be able to think properly. At this crucial moment, as long as Tai Bai Yunsheng stops in the air for a moment, he would be attacked by countless lightning balls at once. If he was hit by these lightning balls consecutively, Tai Bai Yunsheng would have no chance to gather his thoughts. He would just be drowned under the endless lightning balls. Quickly look, 88 Truyang Building saved Tai Bai Yunsheng once again. That's right, this has already happened at least 10 times. With Truyang Building's help, it seems Tai Bai Yunsheng's tribulation will succeed without fail. Outside, everyone saw this with amazed and envious expressions. Such intensive assistance, will it really work? He Lu Lan's eyes were shining brilliantly, he saw the situation with a different perspective. In such an environment, when heaven and earth qi were rampaging, usage of any Gu worm would create a huge backlash. Divert Disaster Gu was no exception. In the history of Gu masters, there were many instances of Gu immortals helping out during the tribulation, and eventually the backlash destroying their immortal Gu. Except that most people were ignorant and did not know such secrets. Divert Disaster Gu is one of the foundational pieces of 88 True Yang building. It is used for Imperial Court blessed land to divert away disasters. Without it, Imperial Court blessed land would face terrifying earthly calamities and heavenly tributations. Giant sons would not sacrifice such a precious Gu for Tai by Yun Sheng, that means the reinforcement of giant sons is limited. What happens now is most crucial, it will depend on Tai by Yun Sheng, whether he can quickly survive the calamity and tribulation in the immortal aperture. Fang Yuan was expressionless as he sat on the Azure Wolf King's back, watching with growing tension. After all, landscape as before Gu was one of his main goals in coming to Northern Plains. Tai by Yun Sheng's speed started to slow down. He was facing troubles both in his aperture and outside of it. The land spirit was causing him harm, while the calamity and tribulation was forming in his own immortal aperture due to his mortal Gu's ascension. This internal threat especially, it was taking away much of his attention, thus his reactions toward the outside world were getting slower. Suddenly, his body shook, completely stopping his movements. Immediately after, countless chaotic lightning balls flew towards him. Divert Disaster Light Pillar was shining brilliantly, it burst out and surrounded Tai by Yun Sheng. Now is the most crucial time. Fang Yuan, He Lu Lan, Yi Lui Sang and others could see clearly that this was it, their eyes were shining. At this moment, in Tai by Yun Sheng's immortal aperture, bright light exploded, engulfing the entire small world. The aura of the immortal Gu was spewing out like a fountain. In that bright light, an immortal Gu was rising up slowly. It looked like a ladybug, it was fist-sized and had a jade body. On its round back, there were natural markings, half was of rivers and seas, while the other half was of valleys and mountains. So this immortal Gu was created by combining river as before and mountain as before. It seems the effect is also the product of river as before and mountain as before, but elevated. Tai by Yun Sheng analyzed. This was refined during the resonance of heaven and earth, it was not refined by him personally, thus, he was still unclear towards the effect of landscape as before. After looking at it for a few breaths' time, Tai by Yun Sheng placed his attention on the most central area of the blessed land. Immortal Gu landscape as before, it was not part of his goal, only an additional surprise. Now at the center of the blessed land, man as before Gu had turned into a huge cocoon, but cracks were starting to develop on it. Dazzling rainbow light was leaking from the cracks, breaking the cocoon and becoming a butterfly. As the thick cocoon vanished, a colorful butterfly fluttered into the sky. Wherever it went, rainbow light rained down, trailing behind the butterfly's path as a curvy rainbow was formed behind it. Ads by Pub Future. Success, Immortal Gu Man as before. Ahahaha. Seeing this, Tai by Yun Sheng was extremely happy, he laughed maniacally. So many years of accumulation, so many years of anticipation and worry, so many times he had fallen into grave danger, but at this moment, he obtained a perfect result. But his internal threat still remained. In the immortal aperture, the azure tribulation cloud was rumbling, forming a huge green-scaled snake. The snake had a silver horn on its head, and its body was hundreds of meters long. The snake tail had turned into chi, fusing with the tribulation cloud. As for the ground, it started shaking, making loud sounds that resembled thunder, causing pain to the eardrums. The newly formed earth burst out with cracks, as lava spewed out of it, the smoke was thick as trees as the surroundings withered. Heavenly tribulation, silver horn green scale python, earthly calamity, molten earth. Tai Bai Yunxing's heart shook, facing both the heavenly tribulation and earthly calamity alone at the same time, he felt an immense pressure. He placed his hopes on the immortal Gu landscape as before. Come! He willed, as a bead of green grape immortal essence flew out, fusing into the landscape as before Gu. The ladybug-like landscape as before Gu immediately flapped its wings, flying away like a flash of lightning. Everywhere it went, in the surroundings, the land returned to spring as the landscape was restored to normal, back to the moment before the earthly calamity struck. Good Gu, good Gu. Tai Bai Yunxing's heart settled, with landscape as before immortal Gu, he had no fear towards the earthly calamity. Hiss! The silver horn green scale python opened its mouth, making a shrill sound. It shot out abruptly, its huge body bringing along a draft of wind, as it pounced on the landscape as before immortal Gu. Tai Bai Yunxing was nervous, although immortal Gu had huge capabilities, those which were not defensive Gu were usually fragile. Landscape as before Gu was the same, if it was destroyed by the silver horn green scale python, Tai Bai Yunxing's situation would turn bad. Thankfully, landscape as before Gu was born from his aperture during the resonance of heaven and earth, he could control it like moving his limbs. Tai Bai Yunxing had deep foundations accumulated in his life, he quickly mobilized landscape as before immortal Gu and escaped. The silver horn green scale python behind him had attacked dozens of times, it destroyed mountains and rivers, the earth was pierced and rocks were sent flying, as savage winds ravaged the land. Oh no! At this rate, Tai Bai Yunxing was concentrating intensely, after a few breaths' time, sweat started forming on his forehead. His eyes were shut tight, his body was still floating in the air, as the chaotic lightning balls crashed towards him. But thankfully, due to the divert disaster immortal Gu's light pillar, his body was protected. Tai Bai Yunxing was unable to care about the outside world since long ago, but he had not forgotten his external threat. This terrible situation forced him to cut his losses decisively. 88 Truyang Building's reinforcement is limited, it might stop any time. I can only do this. With man as before immortal Gu in my possession, as long as I have time, there is hope. Cut it off. Tai Bai Yunxing shouted in his heart. Abandoning the territories to protect his headquarters, he gave up a portion of his immortal aperture, the sky began to cut apart. The blessed land was the foundation and base of a Gu immortal, cutting off the blessed land was like self-mutilation, it reduced their own strength and potential. But Tai Bai Yunxing had no other choice. Just like how Fang Yuan survived the earthly calamity back in Hu immortal blessed land, in order to get rid of the blue charm lightning shadow, he discarded a portion of the blessed land, Tai Bai Yunxing also had to make such a sacrifice. The blessed land sky was shaved off layer by layer. Along with the thick tribulation clouds, they were all sent out of his body. Outside his body, it was Imperial Court blessed land, Frost Jade Peacock joyfully chirped as it devoured these blessed land fragments, to increase its own strength. Giant Suns will shouted in anger. He was trying to protect Tai Bai Yunxing's life, but the latter was now fueling his enemy's strength. Giant Suns will had to protect him, because if Tai Bai Yunxing died, his entire immortal aperture would be devoured by Imperial Court blessed land. Most importantly, divert disaster immortal Gu was already full of cracks, if he reinforced Tai Bai Yunxing any more, the Gu might get destroyed from the backlash. Divert disaster immortal Gu was one of the foundation pieces of 88 Truyang Building, it could not be lost. But if Tai Bai Yunxing died, it was similarly disadvantageous for Giant Sun's will. At once, Giant Sun's will fell into a difficult predicament. Chapter 612, Hoodwinking the Land Spirit. The sky in the immortal aperture started to peel off layer by layer, the dense tribulation clouds thinned out along with it. The devastating silver horn green scale python's body decreased to 1/10 of its original size, its might extremely weakened. The situation was taking a turn for the better for Tai Bai Yunsheng. Success is at hand. Tai Bai Yunsheng's eyes were filled with tears when he opened them. The situation in the immortal aperture was already stabilizing, and he had the room to pay some attention to the external crisis. The light of the avert disaster was covering him, preventing the calamity and tribulation from touching him. Tai Bai Yunsheng felt gratitude from the depths of his heart. This is all thanks to 88 True Yang building helping me, otherwise I would find it difficult to even have a hope of succeeding. The light of the avert disaster suddenly dissipated. Tai Bai Yunsheng was caught off guard and was bombarded by the chaotic lightning balls, his mind immediately turning chaotic. He flew around in disorder, knocking into large numbers of chaotic lightning balls as he was unable to act for himself with not even a trace of reason left. Everyone was shocked, but before they could express it, 88 True Yang building burst out with an absolutely powerful absorption force again, directly capturing the hysterical Tai Bai Yunsheng. Giant Sun's will could not sacrifice Divert Disaster Gu and also could not let Tai Bai Yunsheng die. The best method was, of course, to throw Tai Bai Yunsheng out of the blessed land. Unfortunately, only Frost Jade Peacock could do that in this situation. Helplessly, Giant Sun's will could only use this inferior method. This was indeed an inferior solution. Under everyone's shocked gazes, the tribulation clouds and calamity dust surged explosively, shrouding 88 True Yang building. Countless chaotic lightning balls crashed down like a violent storm, while restraining smoke coiled around the tower like an immemorial giant python, continually seeping inside. 88 True Yang building had brought in Tai Bai Yunsheng, thus becoming the target for the heavenly tribulation and earthly calamity. To protect Tai Bai Yunsheng's life, Giant Sun's will chose to forcefully resist the heavenly tribulation and earthly calamity. How could this happen? Lord Tai Bai Yunsheng was brought into 88 True Yang building. How on earth does he deserve such assistance from old ancestor? This is a heavenly tribulation and earthly calamity we are talking about. They are extremely dangerous to True Yang building. Everyone looked on with stupefied and shocked gazes. Under the presence of the heavenly tribulation and earthly calamity, using Gu worms was asking to suffer backlash. 88 True Yang building was a rank 8 immortal Gu house. In its essence, it was an integrated body of many immortal Gu and countless mortal Gu. And now, it was forcefully resisting the heavenly tribulation and earthly calamity. The pressure on it was already enormous. And because of the force of the backlash, the coordination between the Gu worms had been affected. It was clear, this was by no means a wise course of action. However, Tai Bai Yunsheng had become a crucial key in the fight between Giant Sun's will and Frost Jade Peacock. Giant Sun's will, forced by the situation, could only settle for such a method. Inside 88 True Yang building, Frost Jade Peacock rapidly moved its wings, continuously dodging in between the gigantic trees. 5 immortal Gu, with all kinds of flaming tails trailing after them, were pursuing and obstructing it. Frost Jade Peacock was not willing to be sealed again and used all its strength to run away. Gradually it lost its head and was unable to take the exact path, crashing into countless giant trees on the way. Under Giant Sun's will's control, True Yang building was a natural cage that could utilize the strength of any round, while Frost Jade Peacock was the bird in the cage. The giant trees turned into tree men, opening their arms to block it. Caw! Frost Jade Peacock screamed shrilly as it suffered damage. It tore apart the defense line of 3 old tree men, but its speed lowered greatly by this, and was caught up by a metal path immortal Gu from behind. A golden stream of light rapidly flowed on its body. The golden light condensed into a thick golden shell wherever it touched, firmly covering Frost Jade Peacock. Frost Jade Peacock sensed it could not budge in any areas covered by the golden light. It was instantly startled and furious. It hurriedly flapped its wings to increase its speed again. But the next moment, it was attacked by the second immortal Gu. An intense sleepiness invaded its mind, causing its eyes to turn hazy as it felt an intense urge to sleep. Boom! It crashed down headfirst onto the ground, unable to fly any longer. It had a premonition that its fate was to be sealed again. 2 rows of tears filled with grief and indignance involuntarily fell down from its eyes. Don't even think. Frost Jade Peacock mumbled to itself, trying to use all its remaining strength to resist. Although there was still the remaining power of immortal Gu Gruel mud on its body, the 2 immortal Gu sealing it again were not restrained by Gruel mud. Even if I die, I won't let you prevail. Frost Jade Peacock gave off an intense suicidal will, and disregarding everything, it drew out the foundation of Imperial Court Blessed Land, Heaven and Earth Chi, to intensify the heavenly tribulation and earthly calamity. And it was rapidly weakening. Imperial Court Blessed Land was born from a space path Gu immortal, thus the Blessed Land's territory was vast, far surpassing any at an equivalent level. Later, it was developed by Giant Sun Immortal Venerable, becoming a top-notch blessed land and also obtaining the ability to transit between day and night. It could be said to be at the doorstep of transforming into a grotto heaven. If it could swallow the time path Gu Immortal Tai by Yunsheng's immortal aperture, space and time could converge, which was the greatest supplement to Imperial Court Blessed Land. It was extremely likely for there to be a qualitative change which could allow Imperial Court Blessed Land to advance to a grotto heaven. If that happened, Frost Jade Peacock could break apart most of the arrangements of Giant Sun Immortal Venerable. Although it could not suppress 88 True Yang building, it would have the power to expel it out of the Blessed Land. However, Giant Sun's will was truly too resolute and would rather suffer the damage from the heavenly tribulation and earthly calamity to protect Tai Bai Yunsheng's life. Frost Jade Peacock was only an obsession left behind after a Gu immortal's death. How could it scheme against Giant Sun's will? But it was also because of its obsession, it was brave and unyielding. On the verge of being sealed again, it would rather be exterminated, and disregarding the consequences, it drew out large amounts of heaven and earth chi from Imperial Court Blessed Land. These heaven and earth chi were like adding fuel to the fire. As they assimilated into the heavenly tribulation and earthly calamity, the sky rumbled with lightning, the chaotic lightning balls immediately expanded tenfold in quantity, and the restraining smoke had even more changes, its body inflated and its dark color turned even deeper. Crack, crack, crack. Lightning balls rained down like a storm, fiercely striking 88 True Yang building. Bursts of explosions sounded out, 88 True Yang building became filled with scars, the eaves of the tower collapsed piece by piece, and a crack even appeared on the outer wall. Restraining smoke turned into an even bigger problem, becoming a deadly smoke calamity. It was much more powerful and seeped everywhere on 88 True Yang building's surface, gradually dyeing it black. The pitch-black walls of the building seemed to have eroded for 1,000 years, as they started to peel off. The heavenly tribulation and earthly calamity have become stronger. This is too terrifying. Retreat, retreat. What is happening? Even the wind and snow from the outside world are pouring in. Everyone started shouting in shock. Frost Jade Peacock extracted large amounts of heaven and earth chi, injuring Imperial Court Blessed Land's foundation. If Imperial Court Blessed Land was originally a strong house, now the tiles and bricks were taken out, only leaving behind the framework of the house. This caused countless holes to appear in it, connecting to the outside world. And the outside world of Northern Plains was currently experiencing the blizzard of every 10 years. Divert Disaster Gu was dormant, causing Imperial Court Blessed Land to suffer the invasion of the blizzard calamity as well. Imperial Court Blessed Land was no longer a refuge, large amounts of wind and snow poured in, the temperature quickly dropped as the heavy snowfall flew inside. Although it had not reached the level of forming snow monsters, it was not too far away. Little Sparrow, look at what a big mess you have caused. Giant Sun's will shouted in annoyance. Blessed lands and grotto heavens would attract all sizes of calamities and tribulations in every set interval of time. The larger their fortune, the stronger the calamities and tribulations. The great snow disaster that wreaked havoc over the whole of northern plains every 10 years was actually the calamity and tribulation of Imperial Court Blessed Land. Imperial Court Blessed Land had 88 true Yang building and was also a peak-level blessed land with territory that was at the size of a small world. The fortune it contained was gigantic, thus the calamities and tribulations it attracted were extremely terrifying. Right now, Daoist Gu was hibernating, while Imperial Court Blessed Land had connected outside to northern plains, causing the once-in-10 years blizzard to return into it. 88 true Yang building could forcibly resist the frenzied attacks of lightning balls, the invasion of the black smoke, but it was unable to contend against the blizzard that could wreak havoc over the whole of northern plains. If this situation continued, Imperial Court Blessed Land would erode and crumble apart due to the snow disaster. Frost Jade Peacock did not need 88 true Yang building, but 88 true Yang building needed Imperial Court Blessed Land. There was one way to salvage this situation. That was to use Daoist Gu to eliminate heavenly tribulations and earthly calamities and turn them into heaven chi and earth chi. Making Imperial Court Blessed Land take in these heaven and earth chi to stabilize its foundation, and close the connection with the outside world of northern plains. Giant Suns could take the risk in forcibly activating Daoist Gu. But to make Imperial Court Blessed Land take in heaven and earth chi required Frost Jade Peacock's cooperation. Asking this little sparrow to cooperate is simply an impossible dream. Even if it was Giant Sun's will, this was a difficult problem. He helplessly thought of the only way, unless Frost Jade Peacock acknowledges a pair of new owners. Giant Suns did not know that Tai Bai Yunsheng's immortal aperture contained landscape as before immortal Gu, which could conveniently deal with this trouble. He thought of another immortal Gu he had, false emotion fake will Gu. The condition for Frost Jade Peacock to acknowledge its owner was a couple who had true love for each other. However, nothing was absolute, even the land spirit could be hoodwinked. Giant Suns knew as long as he found two candidates to use false emotion fake will Gu on, he could hoodwink the land spirit and make Frost Jade Peacock recognize new owners. Once Frost Jade Peacock was controlled, each problem could be easily resolved. Moreover, this method was very favorable to Giant Sun's will. If a couple who had true love for each other became the owners of Imperial Court Blessed Land, what would Giant Suns do if this couple did not obey his commands? Instead of that, he would hold on to the initiative if he found two unconnected people to use false emotion fake will Gu on and satisfy the requirement to become the owners. Because false emotion fake will Gu contained Giant Sun's will. False emotion fake will Gu was subjected to Giant Sun's will's control. Even if the two unconnected people were disloyal in the future, as long as Giant Suns still held false emotion fake will Gu, at worst, he could once again select two new candidates. Little Sparrow, you are a long way from being able to fight with me. Giant Suns was shrewd and wise, inheriting some of the main body's intelligence. The seemingly desperate situation could not hold him back. With just some thinking, he thought of a way to resolve it. He immediately mobilized 88 true Yang building strength to inspect the candidates. Right now in Imperial Court Blessed Land, everyone was running away from danger here and there, with many casualties appearing. The situation was quickly worsening. It was so cold that one spit could instantly freeze into a piece of ice. The majestic blizzard was pouring in without any pause. Tall and formidable snow monsters started standing up from the depths of the snow, selecting targets to devour. But this did not pose any difficulty for Giant Sun's will. 88 true Yang building could plunder resources from the whole of northern plains, let alone two people that were right in front of it. These two people would naturally be those with Giant Sun's bloodline. Giant Suns soon selected two candidates who satisfied it. He Lu Lan's vision rapidly changed. He was at rank 5 peak stage, but he did not even have the strength to resist as he was absorbed into Truyang building. Ah, save me. Not far away, Ma Hongyun was still running frantically and did not realize the changes in his surroundings. Thud. He bumped head first into a giant tree in front. Don't tell me this kid was running with his eyes closed. He Lulan was speechless. Chapter 613, Identity Exposed. Painful, painful. Ma Hongyun rubbed his forehead that had turned red, pouting as he got up from the floor. What is this place? He discovered that the blizzard had vanished without a trace. He was surrounded by a spring-like warmth. It was not a world of ice and snow, instead it was a vast ancient forest. Around him were gigantic ancient trees, hundreds of meters tall, so thick that even a dozen adults joining hands could not surround it. The ancient trees were very tall, and their lush leaves covered the sky. Rays of sunlight penetrated through the small gaps, forming a tranquil scene under the shade. Compared to the outside world, this was practically a paradise. You are in the center of 88 Truyang building. A voice suddenly echoed within Ma Hongyun and He Lulan's ears. Who is this? He Lulan's pupils contracted. Ma Hongyun cried out in fear, Ghost. He panicked and subconsciously ran to the side of He Lulan. Ghost? I am no ghost. If I could become a ghost, my affairs would be much easier to settle. Unfortunately, I am merely a remnant will, inferior to even a ghost. Giant Suns will gave a sigh, and suddenly in mid-air, golden speckles of light appeared. These speckles of light rotated slowly and suddenly condensed, transforming into an imposing body of light and shadow, similar in appearance to Giant Sun. Ah, you are. Ma Hongyun stammered, his finger pointing towards the will of Giant Sun in endless shock. He Lulan's pupils contracted. As the head of He tribe, he knew a lot. His complexion turned solemn and respectful. Placing his hands on his chest, he spoke dutifully, Descendant pays respect to ancestor Giant Sun. Giant Sun sighed once again, and said, I know the two of you are feeling confusion within your hearts. To make a long story short, this man broke into Truyang building, undid the seal on the frost jade peacock land spirit, and thus put Imperial Court blessed land on the brink of crisis. As he said that, the golden speckles condensed into the image of Changshan Yin. Ah, it's Lord Wolf King. Ma Hongyun immediately recognized. It was actually him. He Lulan also could not help but cry out. But Giant Suns will immediately continued, what you see is not his genuine appearance. As he spoke, the image of Changshan Yin changed, gradually turning into Fang Yuan's true appearance. This is the true face of that person. Giant Suns will spoke. Fang Yuan disguised himself as Changshan Yin using the human skin Gu. This Gu was a mortal Gu, it was able to deceive people like He Lulan, but it failed to deceive Giant Sun's will. Even though when Fang Yuan explored the true inheritance secluded domain in secret, Giant Sun's will was asleep. But within the 88 Truyang building, there were many Gu worms that had recorded his actions. Seeing the true face of Fang Yuan, He Lulan and Ma Hongyun were unable to recognize him. So it turned out that this Changshan Yin was merely a fake. To actually infiltrate Imperial Court blessed land, he is extremely daring. He Lulan let out a cold snort, sensing such a huge conspiracy, he could not help but be both startled and furious at once. He not only has guts, but he had also made ample preparations. Looking at the two methods he used to scheme against me, these are not something that one can accomplish on their own, there surely must be a larger force backing him. You two are my descendants. Truyang building has been infiltrated by outsiders and is in deep trouble, I now need your strength. Giant Suns will spoke. He Lulan and Ma Hongyun glanced at each other, both expressing their desire to cooperate with Giant Sun's will. Giant Suns will spoke concisely, in a short period of time, he was able to give a clear explanation. So it was like this. He Lu Lan came to a realization, and was now able to understand why True Yang building helped Tai by Yunsheng. His heart jumped. Giant Sun's Will's idea was for him to become Imperial Court Blessed Land's owner, that involved tremendous benefits. Imperial Court Blessed Land's ownership condition is special, the Blessed Land actually requires 2 owners. No wonder back then, when Giant Sun Immortal Venerable set up the sacred palace, he made it so that his empress could stay in it. He loved his empress very much. Now it seems that the empress also had half the ownership of Imperial Court Blessed Land. Using false emotion fake will Gu to deceive the land's spirit, this is quite a good idea. But this kid, how could he be selected to become Imperial Court Blessed Land's owner alongside me? He Lu Lan's eyes sparkled, shooting a glance toward Ma Hongyun, concealing his deep disdain. Could it be that ancestor Giant Sun thinks that he is an easier pawn to control? He Lu Lan's gaze trembled. With Giant Sun's will present, he did not dare to do anything reckless. Differing from He Lu Lan, Ma Hongyun suddenly remembered something and shouted, "Wait a moment. Lady Xiao Yun and my wife Xiao Li are still outside. I do not want to be the owner of the blessed land. Quickly let me out, I need to save them." Lady Xiao Yun naturally referred to Zhao Lianyun. His wife Xiao Li was Chang Li, originally Chang Biao, in order to coax Ma Yingjia, allowed his adopted daughter Chang Li to be married off to Ma Hongyun, consequently turning her into Ma Hongyun's wife. Giant Sun's will seem to have taken a fancy to Ma Hongyun. He laughed heartily, "Ha ha ha, caring for beautiful women, you are truly my descendant. Boy, once you become the owner of this blessed land, this will become your domain. Then, you will be able to have all the women you desire." Ma Hongyun stared blankly, before quickly shouting, "No, it's very dangerous outside, I have to go and save them both. No matter what this affair is, we can discuss it later. Release me outside, quickly let me go." "Foolish boy, relying on your own strength, you can barely defend yourself, how can you defend other people?" Giant Sun's will laughed. "Be obedient and stay here, cooperate and become the owner of Imperial Court Blessed Land. I will be the one to save your women." Giant Sun's will moved rapidly without delay, starting to act the moment he finished speaking. Great numbers of Gu masters were in the True Yang building, and almost all of them were Giant Sun's descendants. These were his descendants. 88 True Yang building was built for their sake, as an inheritance for his descendants. Naturally, not all of his descendants had the aptitude to become Gu masters. Giant Sun's will had not made a move to save those. Fang Yuan had a panoramic view of this scene. Giant Sun's will made a move. This time, many people were taken into the building. Within his mind, Mo Yao's will spoke. Fang Yuan sat still on the back of an azure wolf king, floating at a high altitude in the sky, gazing at the distant sacred palace. But it was a huge distance away from his original location. The power of the calamities and tribulations getting more fearsome, Fang Yuan, in order to avoid the disaster, could only retreat. In the surroundings of the sacred palace, the heavenly tribulations and earthly calamities continued to increase in power. The area was already extremely dangerous. This frost jade peacock was putting in a last-ditch attempt. Even the once-in-10 years blizzard of the northern plains was attracted over. Now the sacred palace had mostly been destroyed, the broken walls scattered in the wind, its former splendor nowhere to be seen. 88 True Yang building was in a terrible state. It was wrapped in layers of heavenly tribulations and earthly calamities. Inside it were the chaotic lightning balls and restraining smoke, while outside was the raging blizzard that was getting stronger. Giant Sun's will has already awakened. He definitely wants you dead. It's a blessing that he isn't targeting you now. He absolutely won't come and save us. We should retreat and return to Water Pavilion. Within Water Pavilion, there is some immortal essence that I have left behind in the past. You can use them to move the Gu house. You can return to Central Continent, and when you return Water Pavilion to Spirit Affinity House, you will receive more benefits than you can imagine. There is no need for you to take a risk here. Within his mind, Mo Yao continued to coax him. Things had already progressed this far, the entire imperial court blessed land had been affected, giant suns had already awakened, water pavilion was still hidden, while True Yang building was suppressed by the heaven tribulations and earthly calamities. It was a great opportunity to retreat. Retreat? Fang Yuan's eyes were cold and detached, his line of sight turning towards the glass owner token in his hands as he sneered softly. He gripped the glass owner token tightly. This was a crucial trump card he had not expended yet. Central Continent Gu Immortals left behind 3 methods to deal with Giant Sun's will. The first was the Gu formation of Special Will Gu, effective in dealing with Giant Sun's will. The second method was a Sealing Gu formation, which could temporarily seal the yellow apricot immortal essence left behind by Giant Sun Immortal Venerable. The third method was even more hidden but had greater power, it could temporarily expel Giant Sun's will from the True Yang building. The glass owner token was the key to all 3 of these methods. Now, both the first and second methods were already used, only the third method was left. But this third method was much stronger compared with the first 2 methods, it could be said to be a trump card. Especially at this moment. 88 True Yang building was wrapped in heavenly tribulations and earthly calamities. Once Giant Sun's will gets temporarily separated from the building, he would definitely suffer the fearsome attack of the heavenly tribulations and earthly calamities. Mo Yao's plan was indeed mature and stable, but great risks come with great rewards. Meanwhile, in True Yang building, Changli and Zhao Lianyun were brought into the building by Giant Sun's will, appearing in front of Ma Hongyun. Lady Xiao Yun, my wife Xiao Li. Ma Hongyun was jubilant, and dashed towards them. Husband. Changli was happy to have escaped danger, and threw herself into Ma Hongyun's arms. Zhao Lianyun also moved quickly towards Ma Hongyun's side, her face also full of joy from having returned from death's door. She lightly kicked Ma Hongyun's leg. Foolish kid, unexpectedly, you were useful for once. Ha ha ha, it's only natural. Ma Hongyun loosened his hug and cordially looked towards Giant Sun's will floating in midair, and expressed his gratitude. Thank you, old ancestor. Just as he said that, suddenly, a violent tremor occurred. For a moment, the entire forest shook. What's going on? Changli and Zhao Lianyun both turned pale. Alright, enough nonsense, the heavenly tribulations and earthly calamities are getting more and more severe, eventually, even 88 True Yang building will no longer be able to resist. You must become Imperial Court blessed lands owners as soon as possible. The complexion of Giant Sun's wills changed as he spoke. Bam bam bam. A group of large tree men moved slowly, each footstep they took sounding like thunder. The tree men lowered their waists, opening their branch-like palms, revealing the giant immobilized peacock. This is the land spirit of Imperial Court blessed land, Frost Jade Peacock. Giant Sun's will introduced, while at the same time, false emotion fake will Gu flew towards the Frost Jade Peacock. He Lulan and Ma Hongyun stood before the Frost Jade Peacock, as the false emotion fake will Gu let out a yellow light that resembled a fog, gradually enshrouding He Lulan, Ma Hongyun and the Frost Jade Peacock. Chapter 614, Otherworldly Demon. Listen to my instructions. Hold your breath, be calm, be relaxed, and discard any superfluous thoughts. Giant Sun's will spoke in a pensive tone. He Lulan closed his eyes and slowed his breathing. Zhao Lianyun and Changli stood to the sides and did not dare to speak. A light breeze blew, and the tree leaves rustled, creating a tranquil atmosphere. Ma Hongyun looked left and right. Suddenly seeing the Frost Jade Peacock, he was amazed, shouting, "Look quickly, the peacock is alive," it actually shed tears. The tranquil atmosphere was disrupted, and the voice of Giant Sun's will stopped. He Lulan held his irritation, and angrily opened his eyes. He berated, "Nonsense, of course the land spirit is alive. When the land spirit dies, the blessed land will be finished as well. Why do you care if it is shedding tears or not? Quickly follow the instructions." "Oh, oh. So, it's like this, my bad, my bad." Ma Hongyun was shocked by the black tyrant's anger. He nodded quickly. "Concentrate, clear your mind, don't think excessively, this is the best way to display false emotion. Fake will goose power to its limit. Giant sons will continue to instruct." He Lulan closed both of his eyes and breathed gently. A light breeze blew, bringing with it the sweet fragrance of vegetation. "Wait a moment, wait a moment." Ma Hongyun suddenly screamed. "You despicable fellow, are you courting death?" He Lulan clenched his fist. An immense rage was building in his heart. He was outraged and anxious. "Old ancestor, I am a man, he is also a man. Creating feelings between the two of us, I am unable to accept it." Ma Hongyun was afraid of He Lulan's terrifying aura. He whispered while being on guard against He Lulan, pleading with Giant Sun's will. "You scoundrel." He Lulan gnashed his teeth and clenched his fist until they made cracking noises, his eyes revealing an ominous glint. Were it not for Giant Sun's will being right by his side, according to his brutal nature, he would have already sent a punch over, blowing Ma Hongyun's brains out. "Idiot. Saving the blessed land is the most urgent matter right now. So what if you're both men? Just be free and relax, there will not be a problem. I will always support you." Zhao Lianyun called out. She was fearful of He Lulan, yet simultaneously her eyes showed some unexplainable excitement. "That's right, husband, look at the big picture. I do not mind it," Changli spoke softly in agreement. Ma Hongyun rolled his eyes and shouted, "Hey, this does not involve you, so you can talk about it casually. Old ancestor, I have an idea. How about you let me and my wife do it? Our love is genuine and sincere, you can even save up on using the false emotion fake will gu." Ma Hongyun was straightforward, not giving much thought to the complex circumstances. As far as Giant Sun's will was concerned, not using false emotion fake will gu was out of the question. He Lulan's killing intent burst out. Ma Hongyun's proposal greatly encroached on his benefits. His anger was about to explode, almost reaching his limit, but he did not dare to attack in the presence of Giant Sun's will. He did not dare to flare up. L1 Terrori N0V3L hosted the first appearance of this chapter at N0vel.B1N. As expected, Giant Sun's will rejected Ma Hongyun's proposal. "Boy, you are too young, true love, is it so easy to find? When calamity strikes, all the birds fly in different directions, human couples are also the same. Do you think this young lady truly loves you? He he he." The words of Giant Sun's will made Chang Li's complexion pale. Indeed, Chang Li had never sincerely loved Ma Hongyun. Originally, she was looked upon as a political bargaining chip by Chang Biao and delivered to Ma tribe, intended to be used to form good bonds with Ma Yingjie, but in the end, Chang Biao died, and Chang Li lost her backing. She could only accept her fate and stay by Ma Hongyun's side. Fortunately, Ma Hongyun could cultivate to rank 3, becoming a Ma tribe elder. The resources he had available to him were incomparable to before, and as he also had Ma Yingjie's trust, he could provide Chang Li with a good life. Ma Hongyun was to become one of imperial court blessed land's owners, and since he was close to Chang Li and Zhao Lianyun, Giant Sun's will began to investigate them. His investigative method was simple, direct, and effective. He separated a portion of his will, and ventured into Chang Li and Zhao Lianyun's minds, looking over their memories and thoughts. With true yang building support, along with the method of an immortal venerable, Chang Li and Zhao Lianyun were not even aware that, at this time, each of their secrets were rapidly being learned by Giant Sun's will. "Old ancestor, what do you mean?" Ma Hongyun pursed his eyebrows. He was foolish and brazen. While He Lu Lan did not dare to offend Giant Sun's will, he dared to ask a direct question. Giant Sun's will laughed. You are indeed a fool, boy. Your mind isn't that sharp, but it is excusable. I will now give you a lesson. This little wife of yours approached you with an ulterior motive. Her adoptive father deliberately ordered her to come. Even your heroic action of saving this beauty was merely a show. Chang Li's complexion immediately turned deathly pale and she trembled from head to toe. He Lu Lan was indifferent. He was already accustomed to these dirty political games. How could that be? Ma Hongyun's eyes widened, unable to believe this. Giant Sun's will then said, and there is also your little female companion, called Zhao Lianyun. She had matured young and gained some wisdom. She was forced by circumstances to had no choice but to be with you. From the very beginning she had looked down on you, only wanting to protect herself. Of course, now that you have grown stronger, she has gradually become dependent on you. Zhao Lianyun's heart went cold. Her thoughts were exposed on the spot, making her feel extremely unpleasant, as if the clothes on her body had been forcibly stripped off by someone. But facing Giant Sun's will, she did not dare to refute anything. She wasn't a normal child, she was a transmigrator. The suffering she had experienced in this life had made her aware of the mystery and cruelty of this world. Suddenly, Giant Sun's will's words came to a stop, and his image in the air showed an expression of shock and fear with his eyes wide open. To think that. Giant Sun's will's tone changed abruptly. He stared at Zhao Lianyun with a hateful gaze, causing her to take a few steps back in fear. To think that you are an otherworldly demon. You are actually lurking by Ma Hongyun's side. You have such guts, you are really daring. Unfortunately, you met me. Giant Sun's will exuded a strong killing intent. Otherworldly demon, what is that? He Lu Lan was astonished, as it was his first time hearing this term despite his status and experience. He looked at Zhao Lianyun but could not see anything extraordinary about her. Old ancestor, what are you trying to do? Ma Hongyun, no matter how stupid, could recognize something was wrong. He sprinted to the front of Zhao Lianyun, spreading both of his arms, protecting her behind his body. Boy, you want to protect an otherworldly demon? Giant Sun's will raised his tone, his expression becoming ice cold. What otherworldly demon? I don't know any otherworldly demon, I only know she is Lady Xiaoyun. Without her help, I would likely have been killed already. Ma Hongyun tried his best to defend Zhao Lianyun. Giant Sun's will shook his head and sneered. He had no interest in explaining, yet for some reason, he had to explain, killed. Boy, you are a person destined to become a Gu immortal. Had she not helped you, there would definitely have been others who would have given you assistance. Otherworldly demons are enemies of the entire world, they are a huge menace. If we let them grow, the consequences would be unthinkable. In the past, there was an otherworldly demon who managed to grow successfully. The 5 regions were almost destroyed as a result. He Lu Lan's eyes widened. The words of Giant Sun's will were too sensational. Listening to his words, it seemed as if the otherworldly demons could rival rank 9 venerables. How was it possible? But the one who said these words was someone He Lu Lan had no choice but to believe. For a moment, He Lu Lan looked Zhao Lianyun in the eyes, killing intent emerging. No, Lady Xiaoyun is innocent, you must not harm her. Ma Hongyun was extremely determined, he wholeheartedly wanted to protect Zhao Lianyun. Zhao Lianyun was stunned. She looked towards Ma Hongyun's lonely and powerless back, her eyes glistening with tears. She did not know what bullshit otherworldly demons were, but could surmise that perhaps it was related to her own transmigration. She forced herself to wipe her tears, the corners of her lips raising into a determined arc. Since Ma Hongyun wholeheartedly defended her, disregarding his own life, she consequently must not implicate Ma Hongyun. She took a step forward, stopping in front of Ma Hongyun. She looked at Giant Sun's will, speaking resoundingly, "You want to take my life, come and take it." "Good." Giant Sun's will had a ferocious smile, killing intent boiling with no trace of sympathy. He was a huge will congealed by special will Gu. The difference between special wills and other wills were that, they could be given a special command by the Gu master that would be triggered if specific circumstances were met. And Giant Sun's will, during its formation, was given a profound resolve by the main body: if it discovered an otherworldly demon, no matter the circumstances, killing the otherworldly demon must take priority. Giant Sun's will had to kill Zhao Lianyun. To have been able to restrain himself until now was already really remarkable. No. Ma Hongyun saw the situation going south. He shouted out in a moment of desperation, extending both his arms and hugged Zhao Lianyun within his bosom. "Otherworldly demon, you deserve to die without pity." Giant Sun's will sneered, and started to make his move. Yet the next moment, his expression became rigid, and shortly after he faced towards the sky and bellowed, "Damn it!" The roaring voice suddenly came to a spontaneous end, and the image of the will abruptly disappeared in midair. Giant Sun's will could sense a formidable, hard-to-resist force, that pulled it outside of the 88 True Yang building. What is going on? What happened? No matter if it was He Lulan or Ma Hongyun, both stared blankly at the spot, surprised by the turn of events. Just a moment ago, Giant Sun's will was still brilliant and mighty. How could he suddenly disappear? Outside the 88 True Yang building, the golden speckles of the majestic will enveloped the entire True Yang building. Rumble. Large amounts of chaotic lightning balls bombarded in succession. The lightning balls could cause one to sink into confusion and in essence attacked wills. Giant Sun's will was restrained by the chaotic lightning balls. In no time the explosions put him in a tough spot. A portion of his will was damaged and destroyed. Meanwhile, the restraining smoke took advantage of the situation, swallowing up the pieces of Giant Sun's will. Giant Sun's will really was too majestic. Though the outer shell suffered the bombardment of the heavenly tribulation and earthly calamity, the inner layer desperately tried to enter the building. 88 True Yang building, presided over by Giant Sun's will, was now an empty building. Although the structure was intact, the Gu worms stopped functioning. Like an army of soldiers suddenly losing their commander-in-chief, they can only rely on their instincts to act. At this moment, 88 True Yang building had become exceptionally fragile. Chapter 6:15, We are fellow apprentice brothers. You little pest, I will kill you. Giant Sun's will was naturally furious at being subjected to such a scheme once again. A portion of the majestic will was immediately sent flooding towards the distant Fang Yuan. However, this torrential portion of will was weathered down by the chaotic lightning balls and restraining smoke in the inner layer, shrinking by 30%. And after being ground down by the outer layer's blizzard, it decreased by another 20%. By the time it approached Fang Yuan, it had already been reduced by more than half. This can only last for about 15 minutes. Fang Yuan turned a blind eye to the rapidly approaching attack. His mind was cool as ice, as he silently estimated the duration of this third method. His thoughts moved while tightly clenching the glass owner token, and the next moment, he teleported inside 88 True Yang building. This was a feature of the glass owner token. Fang Yuan had been able to move in 88 True Yang building without anyone knowing of it. Because of this, he appeared on an ice mountain, causing the torrential will to strike empty air. It was a scene of white. The icy cold wind brushed past his face. Grr. Three-eyed snow rabbits, at the size of adult men, with bulging muscles, drilled out from the depths of the snowy land, surrounding Fang Yuan in a few moments. This was the round that Tai Bai Yunsheng had been transported to in 88 True Yang building. The snow rabbits kept on appearing endlessly and soon there were tens of thousands of them glaring at Fang Yuan. Just based on close-quarter combat capability, these snow rabbits did not lose to wind wolves or turtleback wolves. Under the environment of ice and snow, their battle strength even surpassed ordinary wolves. The large numbers of wild Gu living in their body further increased their ferocity. One had to spend a lot of time and energy to break through their obstruction. But Fong Yuan was in control of the glass owner token and did not need to use such a forceful method. His thoughts moved and the glass owner token gave a faint glimmer. The crowd of snow rabbits suddenly appeared to be at a loss, their killing intent instantly dissipating. Fong Yuan waved his hand and they dispersed in confusion, drilling into the thick snowy ground, and before long, they were gone. Fong Yuan was able to control many floors of Tru Yang building with the glass owner token. He had intentionally held back before and did not use up the quota completely, saving several uses for later. Right now, he used it and immediately obtained control over this floor. Without the obstruction of Giant Sun's will, he was this round's true controller and it was very easy for him to disperse these snow rabbits. Crack! A glacier split open, revealing a tunnel. The tunnel directly extended down the inner part of the ice mountain. Fong Yuan moved quickly in this tunnel and soon saw Tai Bai Yunsheng. Tai Bai Yunsheng was sealed inside an ice block, seemingly in a deep sleep. He had been bombarded by chaotic lightning balls when he tried to pass the tribulations before, his mind sunk into chaos and he was not able to think. Thus, he was easily absorbed into the tower by Giant Sun's will. Tai Bai Yunsheng was not of Giant Sun's bloodline, and moreover was a Gu immortal, therefore he could not be easily controlled. To prevent him from causing trouble and to seize the moment to handle the land spirit, Giant Sun's will took advantage of this to seal him here. With a thought from Fong Yuan, the ice block dissolved and Tai Bai Yunsheng slowly woke up. Chang Shan Yin. Tai Bai Yunsheng gradually regained his consciousness, he glanced around and recalled, before gazing at Fong Yuan. Although he found Fong Yuan's cruel way of doing things very repugnant, he was grateful at this moment. You saved me? Fong Yuan arrogantly smiled, if not me, who else could it be? Tai Bai Yunsheng, do you know you are facing imminent catastrophe? Imminent catastrophe? Tai Bai Yunsheng's expression changed, but he was a famed character and was not scared by Fong Yuan's frightening words. Instead, he slowly stood up and lightly smiled at Fong Yuan, please explain. Fong Yuan looked at Tai Bai Yunsheng with indignance and explained, I was ordered by Master to infiltrate into Tru Yang building and release the seals on the land spirit, to overturn Tru Yang building and take control of Imperial Court blessed land. Master gave me a glass owner token which can use 3 methods to deal with Giant Sun's will. But something unexpected happened midway, you suddenly advanced to a Gu immortal and it was used by Giant Sun's will to weaken the land spirit, leading to the current peril. Did you think you were favored by Giant Sun's will? Humph, he was only using you to protect Tru Yang building. Now that you have lost your value, you were sealed up, and if not for me saving you, you would definitely fall into the control of Giant Sun's will, and end up in extreme misery. What? Tai Bai Yunsheng's brows furrowed as he revealed a bewildered expression. Fong Yuan's words not only contained a lot of information but also were very impactful. Tai Bai Yunsheng stared at Fong Yuan, his gaze flashing with a bright light as his brows furrowed deeper. I had been doubting why I suddenly received the help of Giant Sun's will, but later absorbed into Tru Yang building and sealed up for no reason. Your words explain everything. But if so, who are you? Why did you save me? You might have released me from imprisonment, but it doesn't mean I will believe you unconditionally. Fong Yuan laughed heartily, who am I? Look carefully. He then took a step back and right in front of Tai Bai Yunsheng, he used a knife to slowly cut his skin starting from his forehead. A bloodstain extended down to his stomach, following the tip of the knife. What are you? Tai Bai Yunsheng was shocked. Fong Yuan chuckled, he then held the knife behind his head and cut downwards. Using his hands in turn, he cut down a long wound smoothly. The 2 long wounds soon exuded scarlet blood. An intense pain attacked him, but Fang Yuan's expression did not change. Next, he started slicing at his arms, thighs and other crucial areas. His hand was steady as a rock during the whole process, his expression was indifferent as if the one being cut was not him but someone else, not expressing even a trace of pain. "What are you doing?" Tai Bai Yunxing felt a chill down his spine and took a step back, doubts forming in his mind. But the next moment, his pupils shrunk and his shock could not be concealed on his face. He saw Fang Yuan clenching his teeth and peeling his skin off like stripping clothes. His movement was neat and efficient, there was almost not even an inch of skin remaining on his whole body. Like a blood monster, there was only a terrifying human shape with scarlet muscles and snow-white teeth left behind. Next, Fang Yuan activated Healing Gu. Under the emerald light, new tender skin started to grow over his body. The skin gradually covered all his body, and after the emerald light dispersed, the one before Tai Bai Yunxing was Fang Yuan with his real appearance. "Ah! So you were not Chang Shan, but were just disguised as him. Who are you?" Tai Bai Yunxing might have a benevolent character, but he was not foolish, he immediately realized the truth when he saw this scene. His heart was filled with extreme trepidation. Looking at Fang Yuan in front of him, he saw the appearance of an ordinary youth, but the presence he emitted was beyond ordinary, especially that pair of dark eyes, like an ancient lake with unfathomable depths. He was giving off the intense aura of rank 5 peak stage, his gaze as chilling as a knife's edge. Tai Bai Yunxing had seen countless people, and one look at Fang Yuan told him, the latter was a genius character who was lofty, resolute and did not fear any challenges. Even in all his life, the number of such people Tai Bai Yunxing had seen could be counted with his fingers. "Who am I?" Fang Yuan chuckled, the corners of his lips curled up to reveal a smile, his expression was proud and vivid. His burning gaze looked at Tai Bai Yunxing, his tone serious, containing an earnestness that made people want to subconsciously believe in them. "My true name is Fang Yuan. I came to Northern Plains from Central Continent because of an important assignment from Master. We are fellow disciples." Fang Yuan. Fellow disciple. Shocked and astonished feelings attacked Tai Bai Yunxing's mind. "What do you mean?" "Humph, you don't even understand the meaning of fellow disciple. It means my master and your benefactor is the same person, our relation is of fellow apprentices." Fang Yuan's brows furrowed and his tone revealed some impatience. There was no language barrier between Tai Bai Yunxing and Fang Yuan, he naturally understood the term, but he was not able to accept the great significance of it at this moment. After he heard Fang Yuan's explanation, an image appeared in his mind. It was an image of an old beggar. With disheveled purple-red hair, occasionally he was insane, occasionally he was in a stupor, but when he was clear-headed, his gaze revealed one who had experienced vicissitudes over time and an awe-inspiring aura manifested in him. When he was young, Tai Bai Yunxing had given the old beggar a bowl of water out of kindness. When the old beggar became clear-headed, he gave Tai Bai Yunxing 3 Gu immortal inheritances to choose from. The young Tai Bai Yunxing chose the third inheritance in the end. This was the most profound memory in Tai Bai Yunxing's life, and he had never forgotten it in all his life. Many times, he had recalled the old beggar's image. It was him who saved the lost Tai Bai Yunxing, pulling Tai Bai Yunxing from his lowest point. It could even be said the old beggar created Tai Bai Yunxing. Without the old beggar's help, there would not have been the current Tai Bai Yunxing. "Master." Tai Bai Yunxing mumbled. He had always regarded the old beggar as his supreme benefactor. His whole body involuntarily trembled. He had tried to scout out the traces of the old beggar, and had never given up on this. But so many years had gone by and he had almost roamed the whole of Northern Plains without making any progress in his search. The old beggar was mysterious, suddenly appearing before disappearing again. Now when Tai Bai Yunxing suddenly heard of the news of his benefactor, his heart was filled with excitement, joy, and naturally was even more in disbelief. "Listen well. Fang Yuan pointed at Tai Bai Yunsheng and spoke bluntly, benefactor's name is Purple Mountain True Monarch, master has 6 great disciples. I, Fang Yuan, am ranked at 5th, I cultivate strength and enslavement path, both are from Gu immortal inheritances. Purple Mountain True Monarch, Purple Mountain True Monarch. Tai Bai Yunsheng pondered over Fang Yuan's fabricated name like a treasure, his mind involuntarily thinking of the old beggar's disheveled purple hair. Master doesn't care about his appearance and likes to wander around, exploring the unknown. Before I came to Northern Plains, I heard him mention you and how he gave you 3 choices but you chose the most useless time path inheritance. Humph, if it had been me, I would definitely choose the first inheritance, that fire path inheritance that could burn seas and mountains, it has such extreme power. Fang Yuan's tone was filled with anger, yearning and regret, his expression was sincere and vivid as if this had really happened. Tai Bai Yunsheng's mind shook. He had never mentioned this experience to outsiders. Fang Yuan, however, described the situation back then so accurately. He naturally did not know Fang Yuan had once searched his soul to confirm if he had landscape as before immortal Gu recipe. Then, you are my apprentice brother. Tai Bai Yunsheng's gaze towards Fang Yuan was a whole lot different now. Humph. Fang Yuan twitched his mouth in dissatisfaction, at most, you can only barely qualify as a disciple in name, benefactor has actually taken in many disciples, but they cannot be compared to legacy disciples like me. But according to Master's rule, as long as a disciple in name can advance to a Gu immortal, they can become his legacy disciple. According to ranking, you are my, that, 5th senior brother. Ha! Tai Bai Yunsheng's brows slightly furrowed. Humph, what are you being proud for? It is only because of your Gu immortal identity, that you are ranked ahead of me. Fang Yuan coldly looked at Tai Bai Yunsheng, wait till I become a Gu immortal, with my enslavement and strength path dual cultivation, I will push you down and I will be your 5th senior brother. But looking at your elderly appearance, you clearly don't have much lifespan. I might not even need to become a Gu immortal, I just have to wait for you to die of old age. Fang Yuan's attitude was extremely rude, even revealing obvious resentment. This was where the brilliance of his plan lied. If he just spoke eloquent words and made a vow, that might not make Tai Bai Yunsheng believe him too much. But it was because his words contained an attitude of rejection and also deep emotions, that made Tai Bai Yunsheng quietly put down his guard and gradually choose to believe him. Tai Bai Yunsheng might be quite old, but his experience paled in comparison to Fang Yuan who had 500 years of experience in his previous life. Fang Yuan did not openly explain but using just a few words, he made Tai Bai Yunsheng interpret the whole story himself and see a glance of his master's origin. Tai Bai Yunsheng muttered, then, 6th junior brother. Fang Yuan immediately put out his hand, don't call me that, I am not close to you. My task had been going smoothly but it was destroyed by you. Do you know how much time Master had spent to make all the arrangements in Imperial Court blessed land? Now, the situation has changed like this, how do I explain it to Master? You can just call me Fang Yuan. Tai Bai Yunsheng was not angry at Fang Yuan's interruption, instead a guilty feeling emerged in his heart, he chuckled and cupped his fists towards Fang Yuan, asking sincerely, then. Fang Yuan, things have already reached this point, how should I help you to recoup the losses for Master as much as possible? Success. He, spectacular, this is too spectacular, kid. You are truly insidious, tisk tsk, swindling a Gu immortal to your side using just a few words. Mo Yao had all along been observing this, and at this moment, she could not help revealing herself in Fang Yuan's mind to praise him. Fang Yuan sneered inwardly, on the surface however, he showed an unhappy expression, after such a long time, you have finally spoken sense. Master has a discerning eye, he did not nurture a thankless wretch. Knowing to repay kindness is a trait we should have. The situation right now is very bad, the crucial thing is there is not much time left. I have already used the third method master left behind, you must cooperate with me now. It will all depend on the two of us. Please instruct me. Tai Bai Yunxing bowed. First use this. Fang Yuan grinned and tossed out a 15-year lifespan Gu. This. Tai Bai Yunxing's expression changed, an astonished expression appearing on his face at the sight of this lifespan Gu. Use it, you may have immortal Gu man as before, but that thing expends a lot of immortal essence. I don't want you to suddenly end up dead at the crucial moment. Fang Yuan spoke viciously, with an indifferent expression. But Tai Bai Yunxing instead felt a warm feeling in his heart. In his previous 500 years of life, Fang Yuan's grasp of the human heart was able to reach to pinnacle after experiencing many trials and hardships. This lifespan Gu. My glass owner token can control only a small number of the rounds. True Yang building only has a single lifespan Gu, quickly use it, stop wasting time. But Tai Bai Yunxing did not use it, he kept it in his pocket. He thought of Gao Yang and Zhu Zai. Until now, he was still feeling guilty. The lifespan Gu in his hand had a scent of blood that was very familiar to him. What is going on with you? Fang Yuan acted furious, pretending not to know. There are reasons. Tai Bai Yunxing's eyelids drooped, he raised his gaze, looking at Fang Yuan with a determined look. All in all, don't worry, I can provide you the greatest assistance. Fang Yuan grabbed onto Tai Bai Yunxing, gritting his teeth. Bastard, do you know that I disregarded the consequences in using the glass owner token just to obtain this lifespan Gu? Tai Bai Yunxing was silent, his expression was gentle as jade, but he was very determined. Fang Yuan's words made his heart feel great warmth, his last lingering trace of suspicion vanished like smoke. After looking at each other for a while, Fang Yuan seemed to have felt Tai Bai Yunxing's determination as he retracted his gaze. If you did not become a Gu immortal and are also a legacy disciple, I would not care if you died. Alright, according to the details of your inheritance and your tribulation performance, you should have the immortal Gu landscape as before now, right? Tai Bai Yunxing nodded, yes, that is correct. Fang Yuan's eyes shone, his mouth cracked open to show his snow-white teeth, he did not conceal his joy. Very good, come with me. Saying so, a large number of starlight firefly Gu flew out of his aperture. Oh, that's right, hold these two for me, put it on your aperture, I cannot bring them along. Fang Yuan tossed casually. Immortal Gu. Tai Bai Yunxing's pupils shrunk. A moment later, Tai Bai Yunxing and Fang Yuan entered Hu Immortal Blessed Land using the Stargate. Chapter 616, Repairing Dang Hun Mountain. Master, you are finally back. Little Hu Immortal was already waiting before the Stargate, and when Fang Yuan appeared, she immediately jumped towards him and hugged his leg, rubbing it with her cute rosy cheeks. Hee, you have worked hard during these days when I was not here. Fang Yuan smiled warmly and lightly stroked Little Hu Immortal's head. Little Hu Immortal's fox ears shivered slightly, a blissful expression appeared on her face and her snow-white tail started shaking lightly behind her. This is, a land spirit. So this is a blessed land. Tai Bai Yunxing stepped out of the Stargate closely after Fang Yuan, and was startled at seeing Little Hu Immortal. He had heard Little Hu Immortal addressing Fang Yuan as Master. Fang Yuan was only a mortal, but he already possessed a blessed land. In history, there were some people who had such fortune. The most famous one was Giant Sun Immortal Venerable. He had luckily inherited Imperial Court Blessed Land when he was still just a mortal. And in his later cultivation journey, Imperial Court Blessed Land was of huge assistance. This blessed land's name is Hu Immortal Blessed Land. I seized it forcibly from several sects of Central Continent, under Master's order. Fang Yuan proudly replied. Tai Bai Yunxing's gaze immediately changed. There was a difference between immortal and mortal, but right now, he was looking at Fang Yuan as an equal, asking, I would assume that the process of snatching this blessed land was very dangerous, right? Naturally, even now when I think of it, I still have some lingering fear. Fang Yuan laughed heartily, but in the end, winner takes all, everything is just that simple. I obtained the blessed land, becoming the final winner. The greater the risk, the greater the profits. Tai Bai Yunxing nodded, sighing inwardly, this profit is simply too immense. A blessed land with a land spirit was the immortal aperture of a fallen Gu immortal. Possessing such a blessed land was akin to inheriting the Gu immortal's immortal aperture and cultivation resources. Simultaneously, the impression of Fang Yuan's audacious nature deepened by another level in Tai Bai Yunxing's mind. Master, who is he? His aura is strong. Little Hu immortal sensed Tai Bai Yunxing brimming with Gu immortal aura. She could not help but be tense, gripping on Fang Yuan's pants, appearing somewhat nervous and on guard. Relax, he is on our side, and is here to help us save Dang Hun Mountain. Fang Yuan comforted Little Hu immortal, take us to Dang Hun Mountain. Little Hu immortal's eyes brightened upon hearing this. She trusted her master's words unconditionally. She immediately let down her guard and disappeared on the spot, taking Fang Yuan and Tai Bai Yunxing with her. The next moment, Fang Yuan and Tai Bai Yunxing were teleported to the center of the blessed land, the location of Dang Hun Mountain. Dang Hun Mountain had already been deformed completely from the corrosion of gruel mud. Only a small mound remained of the lofty Dang Hun Mountain. Dang Hun Palace, which was on Dang Hun Mountain previously, had naturally been destroyed. Master, if you arrived any later, you would not have been able to see Dang Hun Mountain. Little Hu immortal said with a sorrowful voice. Fang Yuan lightly petted her head, then looked towards Tai Bai Yunxing. Tai Bai Yunxing was a smart man, and from this scene along with Fang Yuan's previous words, he could guess Fang Yuan's intention in bringing him here. He nodded towards Fang Yuan, before taking out landscape as before Gu from his aperture. Immediately, the surging aura of an immortal Gu filled the surroundings. This is... Little Hu immortal's bright eyes opened wide upon this first encounter with landscape as before Gu. Landscape as before Gu was like a ladybug, it was the size of a fist and had the color of green jade. Its round shell was engraved with natural patterns, half of the patterns portrayed rivers and lakes that twisted and turned, flowing continuously, while the other half was of mountains and hills, precipitous and overlaid upon one another. Tai Bai Yunxing gave a soft shout, a bead of green grape immortal essence turned into a stream of light that instantly poured into landscape as before Gu. The immortal Gu suddenly burst out with green jade light that soared to an extreme height, giving off a radiance that people could not look at intently. The light radiance covered the remaining Dang Hun Mountain. The corrosion of gruel mud on Dang Hun Mountain immediately paused under the illumination of the green light. Immortal Gu gruel mud's power was quickly neutralized and then vanquished. The green light gradually dimmed, Tai Bai Yunxing then threw in another bead of green grape immortal essence. The green light brightened again, covering the devastated Dang Hun Mountain and continually cleansing it. The small mound-sized Dang Hun Mountain started to grow and strengthen at a visible speed under the radiance. Dang Hun Mountain is changing back. Little Hu immortal clapped her little hands, prancing around happily. But the good scene did not last long. Dang Hun Mountain only recovered by 20% when the green light weakened again. Tai Bai Yunxing's expression changed slightly. What kind of mountain is this? It actually exhausted a green grape immortal essence. He was able to create 36 green grape immortal essence beads in his ascension to Gu immortal. But later, using movement Gu crazily to dodge chaotic lightning balls expended one bead of immortal essence. Then in his own immortal aperture, to resist the heavenly tribulation and earthly calamity after the formation of immortal Gu, he had continuously activated landscape as before Gu to restore his aperture to its previous condition, spending 3 whole beads on it. Tai Bai Yunxing had a clear understanding of how precious immortal essence was. Now he had just started to restore Dang Hun Mountain but had used up 2 beads of immortal essence. At this rate, he would have to at least expend 5 to 6 beads of green grape immortal essence. Fong Yuan smiled. Dang Hun Mountain. Dang Hun Mountain. When Tai Bai Yunxing heard the name, his expression underwent a great change, his eyes opened wide and he spoke with a shocked tone. Could it be? It is indeed the one in the Legends of Renzu. How could there be another Dang Hun Mountain? Fong Yuan laughed. To think I would actually be able to see the legendary Dang Hun Mountain. This is the sacred land of soul path cultivators that spectral soul demon Venerable had praised endlessly. Tai Bai Yunxing was extremely moved as he kept on exclaiming in admiration. It was the first time even for him to witness a thing of such legend. When he glanced at Fong Yuan, Tai Bai Yunxing's gaze had another subtle change. He did not say anything else but quietly used a 3rd bead of immortal essence to maintain the activation of landscape as before Gu. This time, Dang Hun Mountain was restored to 40% before the green light dimmed. Tai Bai Yunxing used a 4th bead, then a 5th bead and finally a 6th bead before Dang Hun Mountain fully recovered. It is truly Dang Hun Mountain, requiring 6 whole beads of green grape immortal essence to recover completely. Tai Bai Yunxing mumbled while looking at the tall mountain in front of him. Dang Hun Mountain was magnificently beautiful, ordinary mountains could not even compare to it. It was a pink crystal mountain, emitting an unforgettably dreamy radiance. Master, Dang Hun Mountain's disease has been treated. Little Hu Immortal's eyes had turned red, sob. She cried tears of joy, before lowering her head and using her delicate little hands to wipe the tears. Fong Yuan also let out a breath of turbid air when he gazed at Dang Hun Mountain. Now, the objective for infiltrating into Northern Plains was finally achieved. So many days and nights of effort, taking risks in the battlefields, disguising, racking his brains to scheme, they were all not in vain. At this moment, a soaring fire burned in Fong Yuan's heart. This burning fire had a name, ambition. Restoring Dang Hun Mountain could no longer satisfy his appetite. There were still opportunities left in Imperial Court Blessed Land. Especially now, Giant Sunswell was expelled out of the tower, 88 True Yang building had become akin to an ownerless object. Even if false emotion fake Will Gu was an immortal Gu and was difficult to capture, Fong Yuan had used his silver tongue to obtain Tai Bai Yunxing's trust, succeeding in roping in the crucial battle power that could influence the situation. When the time comes, using a Gu immortal's will, forcefully refining false emotion fake Will Gu was not an impossible matter. Let's go, back to Northern Plains. Fong Yuan came and left just as quickly, with Tai Bai Yunxing in tow. Before leaving, he handed Burial's soul toad to Little Hu Immortal. Burial's soul toad was a storage Gu used to store souls. There were souls of humans and beasts, and they had mostly been gathered by Fong Yuan from the battlefields. These would turn into large numbers of guts Gu through Dang Hun Mountain. When they returned to 88 True Yang building, the Starlight Firefly Gu supporting the Stargate were already spent by over half. Fong Yuan quickly stored what remained into his aperture. It was extremely difficult to accumulate Starlight Firefly Gu. The current amount could only support one more activation of the Stargate. We are back again. Tai Bai Yunxing was deeply moved. In this trip, he had directly gone from Northern Plains to Central Continent and back to Northern Plains from Central Continent. It was truly a travel disregarding distance. He felt like he was free to go anywhere in the world. Tai Bai Yunxing had only heard of Whole Earth Gu and Connecting Heaven Gu in methods that could allow one to connect between blessed lands and grotto heavens. He had never heard of the method Fong Yuan used. Probably only people like Sixth Junior Brother are worthy of such mystical methods. Maybe this was imparted to him by Master. Tai Bai Yunxing trusted Fong Yuan even more after the trip to Hu Immortal Blessed Land. Fang Yuan was only a mortal at the moment, but he possessed a blessed land. This by itself was sufficient to prove many issues. Dang Hun Mountain's magnificent scene was even more deeply imprinted in Tai Bai Yunsheng's mind. Seeing is believing. Tai Bai Yunsheng had no choice but to believe it. Fang Yuan first revealed his true appearance, then used Lifespan Gu, revealing secret information to obtain Tai Bai Yunsheng's trust. Fang Yuan had also resolved the doubt in Tai Bai Yunsheng's heart. Why True Yang building had helped him endure the tribulation for no rhyme or reason. Fang Yuan's words and the evidence he showed to Tai Bai Yunsheng were almost all true, except the lies at the crucial points. 9 truths and 1 lie, the lie would eventually become the truth. Especially when this lie involved the deepest secret of Tai Bai Yunsheng. Tai Bai Yunsheng had never revealed it to outsiders while Fang Yuan knew it by soul-searching. Among all these, the true marvel lied in Fang Yuan grasping Tai Bai Yunsheng's psychology completely. Tai Bai Yunsheng had been feeling extreme guilt after betraying Gao Yang and Zhu Zai. He denied the value of his own existence. Under stimulation, he went through Gu immortal ascension and even charged towards tribulation, thinking of ending it all. But when he successfully passed the tribulation and became a Gu immortal, he stood at a whole new height, looking at a different scene. His mind came back to life, and after passing the tribulation with much difficulty as well as getting his immortal aperture blessed land, he did not want to die anymore. He wanted to make a fresh start. But he had an unresolved matter tugging his heart. He needed hope, he needed acknowledgement. Tai Bai Yunsheng himself was not aware of this psychological need. But Fang Yuan was aware and gave him this acknowledgement. Fang Yuan's acknowledgement, in a certain way, represented his master's acknowledgement. And Tai Bai Yunsheng respected his benefactor deeply. His master's acknowledgement made him feel there was value in him being alive. A mysterious force and a completely new environment attracted his interest. He had been at the peak of mortals and had experienced all that the mortal world could provide, but in the journey of immortals, he was a child that had just begun to move. The 15-year lifespan Gu was in his pocket. He was no longer worried and guilty. He chose to believe Fang Yuan, not only because Fang Yuan explained everything and there were not many pieces of evidence he could contest, but even more importantly. In the very depths of his heart, he wanted to believe in Fang Yuan. Every single person who was cheated, was it because they were stupid? No, it was only because they wanted to believe in it from the depths of their heart. Here, your immortal Gu. Tai Bai Yunsheng tossed fixed immortal travel and flying bear phantom Gu to Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan nonchalantly accepted them. This casual attitude towards immortal Gu caused another ripple in Tai Bai Yunsheng's heart and trust. But he received a great shock when Fang Yuan brought out the glass owner token, as at the next moment, he appeared in another round. Tall and ancient trees were everywhere. Fang Yuan and Tai Bai Yunsheng were within a dense forest. Roars and howls interlinked together, giant trees pulled out their roots and stood up, turning into tall tree men. Within a few moments, Fang Yuan and Tai Bai Yunsheng were surrounded by tree men one after another. Tai Bai Yunsheng had a grim expression. One treeman was nothing to him, but the number of tree men here was extremely astonishing, and to completely exterminate them would require him to pay a significant price. But the next moment, Fang Yuan lightly waved his glass owner token, and this round immediately became under his control. The tree men stopped moving forward, their killing intent gone as if it was never there. While Tai Bai Yunsheng was wearing a stupefied expression, Fang Yuan grabbed his arm and directly teleported in front of He Lu Lan and Ma Hongyun. There was already an enormous change in the situation here. Frost Jade Peacock was half lying on the ground, with Ma Hongyun and Zhao Lianyun turtling up under its wings. Surrounding it were layers after layers of tree men unfolding mad attacks. He Lu Lan was fighting nearby with false emotion fake Will Gu resting on his shoulder. He blocked the attacks of the tree men while also launching attacks at Ma Hongyun and Zhao Lianyun at the same time. But these attacks were blocked by the light barrier from Frost Jade Peacock before they could even reach their targets. Lord He Lu Lan, you are also being attacked by the tree men, your situation is the same as ours. We have neither hatred or grievance between us, why must you try to kill us? Ma Hongyun shouted. He Lu Lan snorted, didn't you hear what old ancestor said? Your girl is an otherworldly demon with a mysterious background and will be a cause of endless disasters, she must be eliminated. Who knows if she and the Chang Shan Yin impersonator are on the same side? Old ancestor was about to attack her just earlier, but suddenly disappeared due to some mishap. You have giant son's bloodline, you are a person of northern plains, you are actually not able to distinguish right and wrong, you dare to shield an otherworldly demon. Ma Hongyun was furious and immediately retorted, she is not an otherworldly demon that you all claim, she is innocent. Lord He Lu Lan, don't waste your strength in vain, we have already received the land spirit's recognition, with the land spirit with us, you can't kill us. When Giant Sun's will was thrown out of the tower, this round did not have any controller and operated by itself, the tree men treated the land spirit, Ma Hongyun and others as challengers challenging the round. He Lu Lan wanted to kill Zhao Lianyun in place of Giant Sun's will. Ma Hongyun was ready to give up his life to save her, which strongly shook Zhao Lianyun's heart and she started feeling true love for him. Ma Hongyun had already treated Zhao Lianyun with earnest feelings, the two loved each other, and the land spirit acknowledged them as its masters by its own accord. In this dangerous situation, the land spirit raised a defensive barrier around them, protecting them from the fatal attacks of the tree men in He Lu Lan. As for Changli, she had already died miserably under the attacks of the tree men. Fang Yuan and Tai Bai Yunxing appeared on the crown of a treeman, observing the battle situation. Ma Hongyun, he actually obtained the land spirit's recognition. Humph. This kid's dog's hit luck is truly powerful. Fang Yuan mumbled with a complex expression. You know him? Tai Bai Yunsheng was somewhat astonished as he had not thought the Grand Fang Yuan would actually recognize this rank 3 initial stage minor character. It is you. He Lu Lan quickly sensed the distant Fang Yuan and Tai Bai Yunsheng, his eyes opened wide as he swiftly jumped back like he was facing a great enemy. His eyes twitched and his heart had already sunk. Giant Sun's will had suddenly disappeared, and the mysterious man impersonating Chang Shan Yin appeared with Gu immortal Tai Bai Yunxing standing beside him, and the two seemed to have a very close relation at that. This was extremely unfavorable to He Lu Lan. Ma Hongyun, however, did not sense anything. The defensive barrier raised by the land spirit was shrinking constantly as it was attacked by the innumerable tree men. His and Zhao Lianyun's sight were blocked by the dense amount of trees and leaves. What do we do now? Tai Bai Yunxing asked calmly while casting a glance towards the gloomy He Lu Lan. Fang Yuan sneered, we need Imperial Court Blessed Land's land spirit, Frost Jade Peacock strength to topple True Yang building. Frost Jade Peacock might have already recognized its masters, but because Giant Sun's will is not present, the seals on it are not being manipulated and it is barely surviving. Most of its strength had already been sealed again. The defensive barrier is also on the brink of collapse and simply won't be able to block me. I will go kill Ma Hongyun and Zhao Lianyun. You go deal with He Lu Lan and seize the false emotion fake will Gu. I trust that it won't be a problem with your Gu immortal battle strength. Let's move, we don't have much time. Immortal and mortal are vastly different, it is just like a wide chasm separates them. You don't need to worry. Tai Bai Yunxing lightly smiled, moving elegantly towards He Lu Lan. Fang Yuan directly shot forward towards Ma Hongyun. The surrounding tree men followed him under his control. Such a pity. Ma Hongyun, I originally wanted to use you as a key to control the events of the future. But who told you to block my way? No matter how good your luck is, your death is certain today. The brimming killing intent in his heart surfaced as a malevolent smile on Fang Yuan's face. Chapter 617, The Reason for Overwhelming Fortune. Bam bam bam. 3 10-meter-tall tree men raised their hammer-like fists as they attacked time and time again, crashing on the light barrier. Frost Jade Peacock cried out sorrowfully. Its huge wings were sealed by gold, only the land spirit's head was still exposed. My masters, I cannot hold on anymore. The land spirit sighed, its long eyelashes trembling slightly. The light barrier was getting weaker, and under the treemen's endless attacks, it was on the brink of collapsing. What was more scary was, Fang Yuan was closing in. Imperial Court Blessed Land was already in bad shape, and the land spirit, Frost Jade Peacock, was sealed. The remaining strength of the barrier was not a problem for Fang Yuan, he could break through at any moment. The fatal threat had already arrived, but Ma Hongyun and Zhao Lianyun still had no idea. Even though they could not sense Fang Yuan, the thick aura of death was suffocating them. Zhao Lianyun was silent and did not speak, she hid in Ma Hongyun's arms as she shut her eyes. After all, she was an ordinary woman. Ma Hongyun continually comforted her in a soft voice, even though he felt no hope himself. It's over. Fang Yuan shot out like lightning, stepping on twigs and branches as he entered the innermost layer of the treeman encirclement. But just when he was about to execute the finishing blow, as he was charging, Mo Yao shouted in his head, "Eh? This aura. Wait, stop quickly. What is it?" Fang Yuan's momentum was lost, he stopped at a high area on a tree as he asked in suspicion. Ever since Mo Yao's will entered his head, he had never felt such intense emotions from her before. At this moment, Mo Yao showed herself in Fang Yuan's mind. She had tears all over her face as her slim body was shivering, she was muttering, this aura, there's no mistake, there's absolutely no mistake. This is the aura of fortune rivaling heaven Gu. Fortune rivaling heaven Gu. Fang Yuan's heart jumped, as he immediately recalled. Mo Yao had researched deeply about 88 True Yang building in her lifetime, taking a huge risk to enter the True Inheritance secluded domain for her lover Bo Qing. Her original motive was to obtain the supreme True Inheritance of Luck Path, she wanted to steal the fortune rivaling heaven Gu in it. But in the end, she only succeeded partially. As she spent a lot of effort and exerted all her strength, she was able to create a crack in the Luck Path True Inheritance. However, fortune rivaling heaven Gu flew into this crack and vanished into thin air. But Mo Yao did not return empty-handed, she obtained a portion of the Luck Path Inheritance's details. Combined with her Refinement Path Grandmaster Foundation, she eventually refined Calamity Beckoning Gu. But Calamity Beckoning Gu was inferior to fortune rivaling heaven Gu. Mo Yao used it to help Bo Qing with his tribulation, and in the end both of them died. Eventually, Fang Yuan found Mo Yao's inheritance and refined Calamity Beckoning Gu once again, accepting Mo Yao's request to return the Rank 7 Gu House Water Pavilion to Spirit Affinity House. Now, Mo Yao felt the aura of fortune rivaling heaven Gu. This was a crucial immortal Gu that she had failed to obtain after spending her entire life and putting in immeasurable effort. It was understandable that she had become so agitated and emotional. Fortune rivaling heaven Gu's aura is on this lad. I can't believe it, Mo Yao, spent my entire life and nearly died in the secluded domain, but eventually the fortune rivaling heaven Gu escaped and this mortal lad got it by chance. He, is this life? Mo Yao raised her head and sighed, as she laughed and cried, her tone was extremely dejected. Fang Yuan squinted, his eyes glowing with cold light. He asked in his heart, that means fortune rivaling heaven Gu is currently on Ma Hongyun? Can you confirm that? Of course, I can never forget the aura of fortune rivaling heaven Gu. Mo Yao replied unhesitatingly. She continued and said, fortune rivaling heaven Gu is a one-time expenditure rank 8 Gu. It is formless and ethereal, being in essence a lump of luck. It is extremely difficult to capture with ordinary methods. Back then, my main body could not capture it, thus it managed to fly away from the scene and vanish without a trace. Even True Yang building could not trap it. It must have escaped to northern plains, roaming until it landed on that lad. So it is a one-time expenditure Gu. Fong Yuan was extremely disappointed. Fortune rivaling heaven Gu was the greatest treasure in Giant Sun Immortal Venerable's luck path inheritance. It had extremely great value. Fong Yuan was unable to gain benefits in the true inheritance secluded domain, but if he could take fortune rivaling heaven Gu away from Ma Hongyun, that would be the best. But unfortunately, fortune rivaling heaven could only be used once before it vanished. Fong Yuan, you have to be careful. Fortune rivaling heaven Gu is extremely special. Back then Giant Sun Immortal Venerable had fortuitous encounters endlessly. Time after time he would turn disasters into blessings. He unceasingly had great luck, and he relied on this Gu to a great extent. Ma Hongyun is affected by fortune rivaling heaven Gu. He is a true child of luck. His luck could be said to be ranked at number 1 in the 5 regions. The luck that Giant Sun Immortal Venerable had back then would very possibly be replicated in him. Although luck is formless and ethereal, it is a part of strength and cannot be underestimated. Mo Yao quickly said anxiously. I know what to do. Fong Yuan held in his killing intent, his expression turning cold as he stopped on the tree branch, not attacking abruptly. He looked down from above, at Ma Hongyun and others, allowing the tree men below him to attack. Actually, the two were not too far from each other, but even Frost Jade Peacock did not discover him. This showed how weak the land spirit was right now. It was obvious at one glance that the two sides had great difference in strength. It seemed that victory was in sight, and killing Ma Hongyun was extremely easy. But Fong Yuan did not think so. He was once a Gu immortal, his vision surpassed mortals. He understood, these so-called paths, wisdom path, refinement path, metal path, time path and others, they looked like they were combinations of complex series of Gu worms gathered together, but in actuality, they were the deciphering of one's understanding towards heaven and earth, towards the mysteries of the universe. Luck path was the same. Based on Giant Sun Immortal Venerable's example, one could see that luck path, even compared to other paths, could more deeply explain the mysteries of heaven and earth in some aspect. Fong Yuan had never looked down on Ma Hongyun, he had always been vigilant towards him. Because his previous life's memories made him understand how high Ma Hongyun's future achievements would be. In his previous life, Ma Hongyun became the pillar of northern plains, the leader that resisted the attack of central continent Gu immortals. When Fong Yuan was killed by the barrage of Gu immortals, he was still growing and developing. Fong Yuan knew about Ma Hongyun's growth, and now he finally understood the origin of Ma Hongyun's heaven-defying luck. That was, Giant Sun Immortal Venerable's greatest achievement in luck path, fortune rivaling heaven Gu. And the cause of all this was Mo Yao who was residing in his mind. Luck did not have any physical form, and it could not be touched, but Fong Yuan knew the ability of this mystical power. No wonder giant suns will purposely chose He Lu Lan and Ma Hongyun as the people to become the land spirit's master. He Lu Lan is the strongest person among his bloodline descendants, while Ma Hongyun had fortune rivaling heaven Gu. Fong Yuan felt that this situation was troublesome. Although Ma Hongyun was a tiny rank 3 Gu master, he had the power of a rank 8 immortal Gu protecting him. A rank 8 immortal Gu, only inferior to rank 9, such as the wisdom Gu and strength Gu of legends. It had absurd and unimaginable strength, anyone who underestimated it would face a pitiful end. Fong Yuan was only a mortal, back then in the true inheritance secluded domain, he could not even get close to the rank 7 human Chi Gu, not to mention the rank 8 fortune rivaling heaven Gu. The original appearance of this chapter can be found at N0V3L.B1N. Ma Hongyun looked harmless, but in all his experiences, when did he ever suffer a true loss? Every time, he benefited from difficulties and had endless fortuitous encounters. All those who wished to harm or kill him faced a terrible end. Although every time he did not personally take action, but there would always be an external force or accident, along with a series of small coincidences, all of these added together to form a shocking power. Fang Yuan suddenly thought of Giant Sun's will. Earlier, Giant Sun's will wanted to exterminate Zhao Lianyun, but Ma Hongyun protected her with his life. This was as if Giant Sun's will had become an enemy of Ma Hongyun. Just as Giant Sun's will was about to strike, Fang Yuan appeared, pulling out True Yang building and causing the heavenly tribulation to strike him. Even Giant Sun's will fell prey. Fang Yuan looked at this from another angle and was shocked. I have the glass owner token, I can check the situation inside the entire 88 True Yang building. Why did I not strike earlier? Actually, it was completely unintentional. Or maybe I heard that Zhao Lianyun was an otherworldly demon and wanted to protect her. I was curious and wanted to investigate this. Fang Yuan recalled the scene. Giant Sun's wills was expelled from True Yang building, he could be said to be the culprit. But the timing was too coincidental, it allowed Ma Hongyun and Zhao Lianyun to escape death. If I suddenly attack Ma Hongyun, would I be like Giant Sun's will an outside force intervene, or will an accident occur? Fang Yuan grabbed his glass owner token, considering his plans again. Wait. Fang Yuan thought about it again. What I've heard on this matter was only Mo Yao's statement. It seems to be credible, but what if she lied to me due to some special reason? Fang Yuan suddenly thought of this. Thus, he asked Mo Yao in his heart, strange, earlier when I used luck inspection Gu, I observed the luck of everyone in the sacred palace. If Ma Hongyun had the fortune-rivaling heaven Gu, why did I not discover it? I could only see that the two with the highest luck were He Lulan and Tai Bai Yunsheng. Mo Yao seemed to have predicted this question, she immediately answered, what's so strange about this? Fortune-rivaling heaven Gu is a rank 8 immortal Gu, your luck inspection Gu is only a rank 5 mortal Gu, an investigative Gu that can allow a Gu master to see luck despite its formlessness. How can a rank 5 investigative Gu discover the luck created by a rank 8 immortal Gu? If I cannot see it, how can I be sure that Ma Hongyun has fortune-rivaling heaven Gu's influence on him? Fang Yuan did not relent, he continued asking. Oh Fang Yuan, you are too suspicious. Mo Yao sighed, immediately answering, there is a method to make sure. That is to use investigative Gu and check your own luck. Every time you act against the child of luck, because of the mutual influence between luck, your luck will become bad, or even worse. If you do not believe me, you can check it that way. Time was limited, Fang Yuan immediately used luck inspection Gu. His vision changed abruptly. Ma Hongyun and Zhao Lianyun's luck were rather tiny, they were the same as ordinary people. Meanwhile, there was a massive black luck, almost 300 meters tall, high enough to pierce heaven and earth. Chapter 618, Great Strength True Martial Physique. This black luck aura was so dark that it reached the point of being extremely oppressive. The coffin-shaped aura was tightly covering Fang Yuan. Since an unknown time ago, the black aura on Fang Yuan had become much larger and much deeper. Far away, Tai Bai Yunsheng and He Lulan were engaged in an intense battle. The luck aura of the two were exceptionally clear. Above He Lulan was still the azure luck aura that gave a lasting feeling like a towering tree. The luck on Tai Bai Yunsheng, however, was smaller than before, not even 1/6 of the original amount. It was no longer the bright burning red cloud, instead it was the shade of heavy evening mist that almost looked like a dark cloud. Fang Yuan moved his sight back to above him and started testing like Mo Yao said. Just like Mo Yao said, whenever he thought of attacking Ma Hongyun, the black coffin luck on him enlarged a little and its dark shade seemed to become even gloomier. Fong Yuan, you should leave this troubled place as quickly as possible. The black coffin luck on you right now is too dense and too frightening. Your life is under great threat now. Don't underestimate luck just because it is ethereal, just think of giant sun immortal venerables' unrivaled powers. You are deep in danger right now, the black coffin luck has not worked its magic yet, but the karma will hit you eventually, it is only that the time is not ripe yet. Mo Yao continued to persuade Fong Yuan. But Fong Yuan coldly snorted and replied with a resolute will, asking me to retreat? Being scared off by merely bad luck? Hee, how could that be possible? He narrowed his eyes, his lips slightly curled up, revealing his snow-white teeth as he looked down from the cover of the treetop. No matter how bad the luck becomes, it cannot attack me directly. It will need to rely on external influences to kill me. Right now, at this moment, at this place, I want to see who can obstruct me. Killing intent surged and bubbled in Fong Yuan's heart. He believed in the power of luck path, but he believed in himself even more. He needed to kill Ma Hongyun. He had to try. If Fong Yuan cowered just because of luck, would it conform to his style? Ordinary people would feel regret after facing the consequences, but Fong Yuan would not feel any. Have you gone crazy? That is a rank 8 immortal Gu. Mo Yao screamed when she felt the dense killing intent in Fong Yuan. Precisely because the enemy is this strong, the battle would be even more interesting, wouldn't it? Fong Yuan instead laughed freely. Right now, he no longer had short hair of Chang Shanin, but had long black hair that fluttered freely with the wind and his countenance revealed a crazed recklessness. He was never against bullying the weak, but even more than that, he had the bravery to fight the strong. How could one obtain a tiger cub without entering the tiger's den? If he did not stake it all at this moment, then when should he? Fate teases the turbulent sea, cowardly insects avoid waves and flow along the current. A brave man does not need much wisdom, there is not regret or pain even if his body crumbles. Fong Yuan mumbled before restraining his crazed mood, his expression turning tranquil. Lunatic, you have gone mad. Mo Yao continued to mutter. Right now, Fong Yuan's killing intent had accumulated to the peak. The black coffin luck aura above him subsequently inflated, expanding by 3 times within moments. Let me see who will save you. Fortune rivaling heaven Gu, let me look at your might. Fong Yuan made a motion to attack. Boom! An explosion occurred, the majestic wind current it created formed into a strong gale that pressed on from a distance. He Lu Lan was standing unstably, while Tai Bai Yun Xing got up from the crater, fresh blood flowing from his mouth. He looked at He Lu Lan who was floating in the air, shock apparent on his face. You are actually. Before he finished his words, He Lu Lan charged at him again. Boom! Ground shook and dust surged everywhere. 10 extreme physique. Fong Yuan's pupils shrunk as he muttered the answer in place of Tai Bai Yun Sheng. He had never imagined He Lu Lan to actually have the 10 extreme physique. And from the looks of it, it was extremely likely to be the great strength true martial physique of the 10 extreme physiques. Several breaths later, a shadow flew out from the dust. It was Tai Bai Yun Sheng. His hair was a mess, dust covered his face, his chest was caved until it revealed the deathly white bones. Blood sprayed out like a spring. But a green light soon covered his body and the blood flow immediately stopped, the heavy injuries on his body also quickly recovered. Fong Yuan and Tai Bai Yun Sheng had exchanged intel back at Hu Immortal Blessed Land. And he knew Tai Bai Yun Sheng possessed 2 immortal Gu, landscape as before Gu and man as before Gu. However, Tai Bai Yun Sheng was clearly not using the immortal Gu man as before, but instead ordinary healing Gu. Immortal Gu man as before required immortal essence to be activated, and had extremely great effects, but it was not easy to gather immortal essence. Thus, unless as a final resort, Gu immortals would not easily use immortal Gu. Tai Bai Yun Sheng, you are a grand Gu immortal but are afraid of me, immortal. A roar shook the sky and earth. He Lulan flew to the sky and started hunting down Tai Bai Yun Sheng. Such an intense 10 extreme aura, terrifying. He Lulan not only has the 10 extreme physique, he is also already on the verge of self-detonation. Fong Yuan was able to decipher many details right now. Back then at Qing Mao Mountain, Fong Yuan had relied on Bai Ningbing's northern dark ice soul physique to cross realms and fight a strong enemy, and overturn the situation. Bai Ningbing was only rank 3 back then. As the 10 extreme physique's cultivation increased, the power of their self-detonation would increase sharply by many times. The self-detonation of the rank 5 peak stage He Lu Lan would be beyond compare, so terrifying that even killing Gu immortals would not be a problem. Tai Bai Yun Sheng had a bitter expression on his face, with not even the slightest battle intent. Previously, He Lu Lan's 10 extreme physique was sealed by immortal Gu dark limit, not leaking out even a trace of its aura. Now that he had torn off the seal, his majestic aura would cause terror to emerge in one's heart. He was now a large human-shaped bomb, who would dare to approach him? What if he exploded? Tai Bai Yun Sheng had just advanced to a Gu immortal, wouldn't it be injustice if he was killed by the desperate He Lu Lan in his impending death? I had never thought He Lu Lan would actually have great strength true martial physique of the 10 extreme physiques. And he has actually managed to grow to this extent. Tai Bai Yun Sheng fled with astonishing speed. He was a flying master and his cloud path Gu was also one of the better movement Gu. He Lu Lan was hunting him down from behind but could only look helplessly as the distance between them increased further and further. Rumble. He Lu Lan was furious, suddenly throwing a punch. This punch had terrifying momentum as it directly broke the sound barrier and burst the surrounding air. Following this punch, a fist chi suddenly flew out, forming into a strength path phantom figure. Fong Yuan had also attacked with many beast strength phantoms back in southern border, but the phantom that He Lu Lan summoned was not beast-shaped, instead it was human-shaped. And this human strength phantom was a vivid image of He Lu Lan. The obese body like that of a bear, the jagged snow-white teeth that were like daggers. A pair of triangular eyes which flashed with malevolent glint. It was truly a second He Lu Lan. Even if I combine all the beast strength phantoms I used back at southern border, they might not be the human strength phantoms match. Fong Yuan's eyelids twitched. He had extraordinary judgmental ability and immediately saw the extremely high battle strength that this human strength phantom possessed. It was full of spirituality. Once it was summoned, it could chase the enemy of its own will. This was the strength of rank 5 peak stage great strength true martial physique. Simply terrifying. But how powerful this strength was, Fong Yuan could not estimate it easily. Unless he personally went to battle and experienced it for himself. But he was sure this terrifying battle strength had already surpassed mortal realm. It could even be said that He Lu Lan was currently at a state that was half a step to Gu immortal realm. 10 extreme physique originally broke apart conventions, they were existences that could shatter opponents at the same realm. Back at Qing Mao Mountain, Fong Yuan used the 10 extreme physique to survive an ordeal. But this time, the 10 extreme physique was his enemy. If not for the fact that Gu masters obtain a qualitative improvement in their body's defense when they advance to Gu immortal, Tai Bai Yun Sheng would be in greater danger. Tai Bai Yun Sheng had advanced to Gu immortal just now, he has yet to accumulate the foundation of a Gu immortal. Moreover, he is a healing Gu master, but has to face against this tyrannical and battle-thirsty enemy like He Lu Lan. For a moment, thoughts shone in Fong Yuan's mind like sparks. The strongest advantage of a Gu immortal over mortals lies in their unlimited primeval essence. But He Lu Lan's main cultivation path is Strength Path, which relies on primeval essence the least among all paths and has the lowest primeval essence consumption. This advantage is thus almost non-existent. There is also He Lu Lan's killer move. It actually went in an innovative new direction, creating such a sentient human strength phantom. In just a short period, he has already created 5 to 6 human strength phantoms. These phantoms are anything but ordinary, filled with spirituality. They actually flanked and blocked Tai Baiyun Sheng's retreat paths. This is truly unimaginable. Unleashing human-shaped phantoms was not a surprising thing. The crucial point was that he could create such intelligent human-shaped phantoms. Moreover, all of these human-shaped phantoms had astonishing strength. The might of their strength and wisdom made even Fang Yuan feel apprehensive. No wonder He Lu Lan died suddenly in my previous life. So it was because he had the 10 extreme physique. Fang Yuan suddenly realized. Although he had rebirthed, it did not mean he knew everything. Right now, this unexpected twist disrupted his plans. Damn it! Fang Yuan subconsciously tightened his grip on the glass owner token. According to his original plan, he would have gone with Giant Sun's will's train of thoughts, using false emotion fake will Gu to subdue the land spirit and become Imperial Court blessed land's owner. He needed to subdue false emotion fake will Gu first to accomplish this. However, false emotion fake will Gu was one of the ordinary true inheritances and it contained a portion of Giant Sun's will in it. How could a mere mortal like Fang Yuan refine an immortal venerable's will? Only Gu immortals will had such a possibility. Thereupon, Fang Yuan used his eloquence to dupe Tai Baiyun Sheng into become his ally. It was to make use of his will to refine false emotion fake will Gu. But when he returned to Tru Yang building, the situation had already changed beyond his expectations. Ma Hongyun and Zhao Lianyun obtained Frost Jade Peacock's recognition, becoming Imperial Court blessed lands owners. Frost Jade Peacock's condition for recognizing its masters was a Gu master couple who had to have true love for each other. Ma Hongyun was a rank 3 Gu master, but Zhao Lianyun was still a young girl and had not begun her cultivation journey yet. However, she was still recognized as a master. This showed the condition of Gu master was only speaking of aptitude. As long as the person had the possibility of becoming a Gu master, they could receive recognition. In Fang Yuan's previous life, Zhao Lianyun was a wisdom path Gu immortal. She naturally had strong cultivation aptitude. These small details were not worthy bickering over. In Fang Yuan's opinion, what he needed to do were 2 things. First was seizing false emotion fake will Gu. It was on He Lu Lan, and Fang Yuan had given this task to Tai Baiyun Sheng. Second was killing Ma Hongyun and Zhao Lianyun. As long as he killed them, Imperial Court blessed land would return to a ownerless state. After completely these 2 matters, Tai Baiyun Sheng could help Fang Yuan to refine false emotion fake will Gu and take control of the land spirit. Even if Giant Sun's will returns then, Fang Yuan had the capital to contend against him. However, right now, none of these 2 goals were achieved. Chapter 619, The Might of Overwhelming Fortune. He Lu Lan revealed his true trump card, displaying he had one of the 10 extreme physiques and was close to self-detonation. It had shocking battle strength, with him managing to suppress the Gu immortal Tai Baiyun Sheng, and he was chasing after him. This was quite a shock, but after some consideration, it was nothing strange. If he doesn't defeat He Lu Lan, he would not get false emotion fake will Gu. Without false emotion fake will Gu, how will I subdue the land spirit? Damn it! Fang Yuan gritted his teeth. His plan was ruined. Is this the power of fortune rivaling heaven? The moment I wanted to strike, such an accident occurred. Fang Yuan took a look at Ma Hongyun, his expression turning grim. For some reason, the killing intent in his heart intensified. He crossed his arms, standing high up in the tree as his mouth showed a cold smile. It is getting more interesting. fortune rivaling heaven. Now that He Lulan and Tai Bai Yun Sheng are fighting, if I really want to kill you, what can you do to resist me? This time, Fang Yuan did not go personally, but instead manipulated the tree men. The tree men at the most inner layer raised their hammer-like fists highly in the air. Under Fang Yuan's manipulation, they slammed down at the same time. Bam! With a loud bang, Frost Jade Peacock cried out pitifully as its raised head fell onto the ground. The defensive barrier that it had erected with all its effort was smashed, it turned into golden dust as it quickly vanished into nothingness. Even the last obstacle was removed. The closest treeman took a huge step forward, it stretched out its huge arm as it rapidly grabbed at Ma and Zhao. Zhao Lianyun shouted shrilly, while Ma Hongyun held her in his arms, his back facing the treeman's palm. Die! Fang Yuan muttered, completely ignoring the black coffin luck above his head that was rapidly growing. The treeman's palm was towering over Ma and Zhou, it only needed to squeeze lightly and Ma and Zhao would turn into meat paste. But at this moment, a huge tremor occurred in 88 Truyang building. The entire place was shaking. Scoundrel, you dare to chase me out, quickly accept your death. A loud voice could be heard, piercing heaven and earth, and causing Fang Yuan's eardrums to feel slight pain. Hearing this familiar voice, Ma Hongyun raised his head in joy, saying, "Its old ancestor did not die, he is back again." He Lulan expressed joy similarly on his face. Tai Bai Yun Sheng's expression was pale. If giant sons will return, 88 Truyang building would display the might of a rank 8 immortal Gu house, it could definitely trap a Gu immortal, this was no joke. How can this be? Even though I spent some time inside Hu immortal blessed land, but 15 minutes was far from over. Fang Yuan's pupils shrunk to the size of a pin, he was very stunned. He quickly used the glass owner token and checked the situation. Outside 88 Truyang building, there were layers and layers of golden sand-like light particles. That was the colossal giant sun's will. He was still growling furiously, as he resisted the assault of the heavenly tribulation and earthly calamity, he constantly exerted pressure and attempted to barge into 88 Truyang building. The giant sun's will that is outside did not come in. Then who is this giant sun's will here? Where did he come from? Fang Yuan was very perplexed. But this giant sun's will that just appeared did not want to give him time to think. Heaven and earth shook, those which were running, those which were helping Tai Bai Yun Sheng, those which were standing in place, those which were trapping Ma Hongyun, all the tree men stopped their actions, standing still like statues. Fang Yuan's face was red, the glass owner token in his hand was hot like fire. Cracks started appearing on the owner token, in just a moment, the glass owner token was on the brink of collapsing. Damn it! Fang Yuan gritted his teeth, this mysterious giant sun's will was getting rid of the central continent Gu Immortals arrangements rapidly. The third arrangement that central continent Gu Immortals made was extremely hidden, it was not easy for giant sun's will to find it. But right now, Fang Yuan had completely unleashed it, there was no way to hide it, this mysterious giant sun's will found it easily. Once the glass owner token breaks, the third arrangement would lose effect, and the giant sun's will outside would be free to enter and exit Truyang building. By that time, even if giant sun's will did not use 88 Truyang building, he could easily kill Fang Yuan using his own ability. An unprecedented danger had descended upon Fang Yuan. Don't tell me I need to use Spring-Autumn Cicada. No. The risk of using Spring-Autumn Cicada is too high, I am not at that stage yet. I have to persevere, I can still go on. Fang Yuan growled angrily, he sent his will into the glass owner token. Bam! The next moment, through the glass owner token, his will clashed with the giant sun's will that had appeared out of nowhere. Ugh! Fang Yuan's body shuddered, he spurted out a mouthful of blood as the will he injected was completely obliterated. His head hurt intensely, like it was going to break apart. His mind suffered a huge blow, as Mo Yao's will screamed continually. Fang Yuan's body shook, he felt dizzy and could not stand. After enduring for a few breaths, he fell from the tall tree branch. Swoosh! Wind blew, as the three closest tree men suddenly stretched out their tree vine hands, grabbing at Fang Yuan with ill intent. Fang Yuan lost the contest. Giant Sun's will had regained control of this round, thus, the tree men also became Fang Yuan's enemies. They would not rest until they killed Fang Yuan. Because of this sudden event, Ma and Zhou escaped death. Under the influence of their will to live, they started escaping blindly among the chaotic tree roots. At the moment of danger, Fang Yuan was barely able to regain awareness. He shouted lightly, injecting his primeval essence into his Gu worms, mustering his strength and punching and kicking the large tree hand that was coming for him. Bam bam bam. After 3 explosive sounds, the fists were shattered as Fang Yuan adjusted his balance in the air, landing hastily. The aftermath of competing against Giant Sun's will remained. His ears were buzzing and his hearing was nearly completely gone. But Fang Yuan had no regret. In fact, he opened his mouth, laughing loudly. Excellent. The earlier clash of wills was not elegant in the least, but it not only allowed Fang Yuan to keep his glass owner token, he even found out the truth about Giant Sun's will. This newly appeared and mysterious will was not as powerful as expected. He did not expect Fang Yuan to make such a choice either. This will was split into 3, the largest portion of it was dealing with the third arrangement, a small portion was busy fighting for the control rights of this round, while the last portion was victorious in the contest against Fang Yuan through the glass owner token. In the end, Fang Yuan's injected will exterminated the victorious Giant Sun's will, and combined with the third arrangement, although his will was wiped out, he successfully caused harm to that large portion of Giant Sun's will. Thus, Giant Sun's will was only left with a small portion that was controlling this round. Giant Sun's will fell into extreme anger. He did not expect this tiny mortal to have the guts to challenge his will directly. He did not expect that this mortal had stored so many wills in his mind either. This was all thanks to Mo Yao honestly. In order to deal with Mo Yao, Fang Yuan stored large amounts of wills in his mind as a backup. He had special will, play will, deliberate will, keep will, heart will and others. He had a variety of many wills. Giant Sun's will greatly underestimated Fang Yuan's capacity, and as he was anxious to save the situation, he was counterattacked by Fang Yuan and in the end, was caught off guard and suffered a great loss. Scoundrel, I will decimate your corpse. Giant Sun's will was angered to his boiling point. He continued to manipulate the tree men to attack. Fang Yuan dodged left and right, using all his effort to heal his injuries. These tree men had thick skin and flesh. Even if their branches, arms and legs were broken, they would not die. They had very strong vitality. It was not a good idea to fight them head-on. While he dodged, Fang Yuan's injuries recovered rapidly. He quickly realized that the tree men were not only attacking him, but also Tai Bai Yunsheng and even Ma Hongyun. More accurately, they were attacking Zhao Lianyun, who was beside Ma Hongyun. Ma and Zhao escaped under the pursuit of the tree men. They were in a dangerous situation. They frantically escaped without a goal, but they actually got near to Fang Yuan. Please save us. Ma Hongyun finally saw Fang Yuan, shouting loudly for help. So naive. Fang Yuan laughed sinisterly, immediately going closer to him. As the two sides got closer, Fang Yuan shouted loudly, Giant Sun's will is trying to kill you, we have a common enemy, come here. Be careful. Zhao Lianyun, who was running, showed hesitation and worry. But the current situation was, only Fang Yuan could protect them. They were unable to hold on much longer. If they stayed, they would definitely get killed by the tree men. If they went to Fang Yuan, they at least had a chance of survival. Save, of course we'll save them. Quickly save them. In his mind, Mo Yao's will suddenly shouted. Slash. What? Fong Yuan thought he heard wrongly. Mo Yao spoke quickly, do you still not understand? Giant Sun's will is a huge special will, he knows the power of fortune rivaling Heaven Gu, his intention is not to deal with Ma Hongyun. But when he was first formed, his main body had placed a rule on him, that was to exterminate any otherworldly demon he sees. She's an otherworldly demon, don't tell me you are not interested. But the most important thing is, if you save that Zhao Lian Yun, it will be the best weapon against Giant Sun's will. Since Ma Hongyun and Zhao Lian Yun are truly in love, they will definitely be enemies with Giant Sun's will. By then, Giant Sun's will would be dealt with using the power of fortune rivaling Heaven Gu. Mo Yao's words were very moving. At once, the hidden killing intent that he had towards Ma Hongyun shrunk. Wait. Ma and Zhao are in grave danger now, they might get squashed or trampled by the tree men at any moment. If I appear now, wouldn't I be saving them? Fong Yuan suddenly thought of this, becoming stunned. Although Ma Hongyun was rank 3, he was too hard to kill. The first time Fong Yuan's killing intent appeared, He Lu Lan showed his trump card, he unleashed his extreme physique and chased after Tai by Yunsheng. The second time he had killing intent, Giant Sun's will came out of nowhere and gravely injured Fong Yuan. And now, his ears were buzzing and his mind was weakened by at least 30%. Even though he protected the glass owner token and caused harm to Giant Sun's will, he lost control over this round. Now, Fong Yuan had his third wave of killing intent, and Mo Yao was the one who stopped him. But the problem was, she made perfect sense. Even Fong Yuan himself was convinced. The reason Fong Yuan wanted to kill Ma Hongyun earlier was to change the land spirit's ownership. But now that He Lu Lan showed his true battle strength and protected the false emotion fake Will Gu, thus Fong Yuan did not have it. What use was there in killing the two? Don't tell me that this third time, the one stopping me is actually myself. As he was struck by reality, Fong Yuan was tongue-tied. Chapter 620, Stopped by Himself. Fong Yuan truly experienced the might of fortune rivaling Heaven Gu now. This was a form of helplessness, like being played by destiny, where one would not know whether to laugh or cry, and the more they struggled, the deeper they would fall into despair. Forced by the situation and in order to avoid calamity, it seemed Fong Yuan could only choose to maximize his benefits. The distance between the two sides rapidly shortened. To save them, or not to save them? Mo Yao repeatedly screamed in Fong Yuan's mind, save them. Reason also told Fong Yuan that saving Ma Hongyun would make him stand on the same side as fortune rivaling heaven and he could borrow its strength to deal with Giant Sun's will. However, there was a voice in Fong Yuan's heart. This voice growled, shouted and roared. Save! Am I going to surrender? Am I going to lower my head? I can kill him with one slap. What am I afraid of? Afraid of these two trash. Even fortune rivaling heaven cannot obstruct me. Fong Yuan's ears were buzzing non-stop, but this voice kept on getting louder, gradually suppressing every other sound. He felt bursts of intense headaches. He felt his mouth go dry in front of these choices. That voice in his heart, however, was getting louder and clearer till his heart started to tremor. Every howl, every roar, every shout, seemed to throw a bundle of firewood into the fury in Fong Yuan's heart. The burning flames surged. That was the fire of ambition, his fighting spirit, his unyielding, obstinate spirit of challenging the strong. The flames soared, Fong Yuan's eyes turned bloodshot, his blood boiled and surged like the surging waves. Come, let me send you off personally. Fong Yuan spoke, his voice hoarse like sand gritting on iron. He did what he would normally not do, going against his style of prioritizing benefits. With a malevolent expression and eyes shining with sharp killing intent, he smashed apart the giant tree men in front of him, tearing the countless twisting and coiling vines. He reached Ma Hongyun and Zhao Lianyun. Then he lifted his fist. Before his punch even struck out, the terrifying fist aura already condensed into solid. The brutal killing intent almost solidified even the air. Ah! Ma Hongyun's eyes opened wide, never having expected Fang Yuan to have such resolute killing intent. He turned pale with fright, and in his panic, he unexpectedly stumbled and fell to the ground. Ouch! Zhao Lianyun had been holding hands with Ma Hongyun, and was thus also pulled down to the ground. This unforeseen event shocked Fang Yuan. He was already extremely vigilant because of the repeated accidents. But he soon found that this small accident only prolonged the time he struck them by a little. At the same time, two giant tree men also reached Ma Hongyun and Zhao Lianyun. No matter which treeman it was, it would only need 1 foot to crush these two to pieces. But Giant Sons will truly did not want to harm Ma Hongyun, and could only mobilize vines to scuttle to Ma Hongyun and Zhao Lianyun, to separate them and then kill Zhao Lianyun. 5 tree men suddenly pierced out of the ground at this moment and coincidentally blocked Fang Yuan's way. This strong defense required Fang Yuan to waste at least a dozen breath of time. Giant Sons was using his previous tactics again. At present, the extremely weak land spirit was already booted from the playing field. False emotion Fake Gu was safe as it was being protected by He Lulan. Ma Hongyun and Zhao Lianyun might have become the owners of the blessed land, but as long as Zhao Lianyun was killed, this connection would be cancelled. At that time, it would not be too late to salvage the situation by using false emotion Fake Gu to make He Lulan and Ma Hongyun the owners of Imperial Court blessed land. Thus, Giant Sons was obstructing Fang Yuan from killing Ma Hongyun. Damn it! This kind of feeling again, always at the crucial place and at the crucial time. Fang Yuan gritted his teeth, and used all his strength to forcibly break through the defensive line. Thud thud thud. Thunder-like collisions occurred one after another. Fang Yuan was like a tiger let loose, his fierce offense directly breaking the treeman's defense. The whole process only lasted less than 10 breaths. However, Fang Yuan also had to pay a heavy price. 3 enormous wounds were added to Fang Yuan's body, one ran through his chest, another pierced his back, and another formed a bloody hole on his stomach with the size of a baby's fist. His right forearm was severely fractured, his left leg was twisted grotesquely to the side. Ha ha ha. Fang Yuan, however, howled with laughter. He could not use his hand and leg for a while, but he still had movement Gu, he could still fly. He rapidly chased after Ma Hongyun and Zhao Lianyun through the air. Ma Hongyun hunched over, protecting Zhao Lianyun tightly under him. Vines were coiling around them from outside. These vines wanted to separate the two without harming Ma Hongyun. Ma Hongyun faced off against the vines. But naturally, he was weaker and looked on as he and Zhao Lianyun were forcibly separated. He bit his lips and glared with furious eyes, but he was powerless. No! He roared with bloodshot eyes. Despair and pain filled him as he saw his lover about to die in front of him, appearing like a beast forced into a corner. Save him quickly, now is the best time to save him. As long as you save them, Ma Hongyun will definitely feel grateful to you, you can then borrow the strength of his fortune that rivals heaven. Just think, why is Giant Sons will not killing Ma Hongyun, it is to use his luck. Mo Yao shouted again, persuading Fang Yuan. /update by. You really speak a lot of nonsense. Fang Yuan replied with ruthless coldness. Success was in front of him, but he instead calmed down, he had no expression on his face, not even the previous malevolent look. Die. When Ma Hongyun and Zhao Lianyun was in his range, Fang Yuan immediately struck out with a fatal attack. This attack had earth-shattering power, bursting all the air in front of it. The incomparably violent power was like an evil dragon rising to heaven, as it shrouded over Ma Hongyun and Zhao Lianyun. No. This time, it was Giant Sun's will who let out a helpless and desperate shout. He immediately mobilized the surrounding tree men to use their own bodies to protect Ma Hongyun and Zhao Lianyun. The tree vines no longer separated the two, instead they attempted to rapidly evacuate them. But Giant Sun's will was still feeling dejected. He knew all these would be of no use. This strike filled with Fang Yuan's pent-up wrath, how could it be so easily blocked and avoided? The treemen's trunks were smashed apart, the vines also did not have enough time to evacuate Ma Hongyun and Zhao Lianyun. In the end, the attack that still had its peak offensive power was about to directly smash them into pieces. Even though there were countless tree men filling the vast forest, it was all too late. Fang Yuan was resolute, erupting with all his strength to break through the defensive line and succeeded in grabbing the crucial moment. The treemen's movement was slow and they were not good at providing swift reinforcement. Ma Hongyun was definitely dead meat. At this moment, not only Fang Yuan, even Giant Sun's will also thought this so. Not only did they think so, even Ma Hongyun and Zhao Lianyun did not have any hope of surviving the attack. Any factors that could influence the situation had seemingly already played their part. He Lulan, Tai Bai Yunsheng, 88 Truyang Building, Giant Sun's Will, Frost Jade Peacock, Fang Yuan, Mo Yao. All these people or things had shown all their strength by this point. Time seemed to slow down, Fang Yuan's lips curled up to reveal a smile. Now, is there anything left that can save Ma Hongyun? However, at the next moment. Rumble. A loud sound rang out, causing huge tremors and making countless trees creak. Dazzling golden rays of light shone over the whole round. Has Giant Sun's will entered Truyang Building? Fang Yuan turned grave, but soon discovered that was not the case. Giant Sun's will was still taking a beating outside the building. Central Continent's Gu immortals had planned for countless years to create the third method, it could never be underestimated. If not for this, Central Continent's Gu immortals would not have been able to overthrow 88 Truyang Building and return victorious in Fang Yuan's previous life. The enormous golden light lump moved like a meteor and before the sound even registered in one's ears, it crashed onto the ground, instantly destroying the surrounding tree men and protecting Ma Hongyun and Zhao Lianyun within it. Isn't this, that luck path supreme true inheritance? Mo Yao was so shocked she involuntarily screamed out. What's going on? Shouldn't this supreme true inheritance be in true inheritance secluded domain? How did it suddenly crash into this round and throw itself towards Ma Hongyun's body? With no choice, Fang Yuan could only stop his footsteps. He had already experienced the might of a supreme true inheritance in true inheritance secluded domain. This was not something he could touch. But why? Ma Hongyun is covered by this light, but why has nothing happened to him? For a moment, Fang Yuan could not help but feel extremely dejected. He had used all his strength in his third attempt to kill Ma Hongyun, he had even seen hope a moment ago, the success had seemingly been right in front of him, but he still failed in the end. Why did the supreme true inheritance move to Ma Hongyun? Impossible, this is impossible. Mo Yao completely lost self-control as she scratched at her head, causing her long hair to become messy, resembling a crazed woman. This was not surprising. She had suffered untold hardships, expended all her energy and effort but was only able to open a crack in the luck path true inheritance from which fortune rivaling heaven Gu escaped. Finally, she had no choice but to refine calamity beckoning Gu. But this calamity beckoning Gu was not able to assist her husband, Bo Qing, causing her and Bo Qing to perish. But at this moment, she was watching this luck path supreme true inheritance throwing itself at a rank 3 mortal. Even if you had fortune that rivaled heaven, isn't this going overboard? Why was it not me? I put in so much effort, paid such a huge price, why was it not me? Why was it this mere mortal, a fool, a kid? It is a comparison that could make one die from anger. Fang Yuan forcibly calmed down and tried hard to remove the unneeded emotions, reflecting on this event. A bright flash of inspiration seemed to roam around in his mind, but was extremely hard to get a grasp on. I understand. Suddenly, Fang Yuan's body shook as he grasped this flash of inspiration, and understood this seemingly impossible event. This supreme true inheritance recognized Ma Hongyun and not others as its master of its own accord. This was because Ma Hongyun had the power of fortune rivaling heaven Gu on him. Fortune rivaling heaven Gu was the true essence of Giant Sun Immortal Venerable's luck path, the quintessential crystallization of luck path. To the supreme true inheritance, it was the leader and the emperor. But why did the supreme true inheritance not come earlier or later, but chose this exact moment? Luck path supreme true inheritance was located in true inheritance secluded domain, how could it come here for no rhyme or reason? These two questions actually pointed to the same factor, Giant Sun's will.